All right. Okay, I hit broadcast 2. We just did our countdown, and it says stream validation in progress. Come on. Live recording. Oh, right there. Okay, hey, how you doing, Dr. Horton?
Hello.
We just did a countdown. We couldn't decide if we were doing an interview or, well, I couldn't decide. We decided we're having a discussion. And so there, we're streaming on my channel, and Dr. Horton is doing the same thing. So we're getting this out to as many people as possible. So I'd like to welcome everybody on my channel, the Barden Report. Dr. Catherine Horton is a particle physicist. You've worked at CERN. I've researched a lot about that. I can't even wrap my head around half of it. You've done a lot of things. You're a PhD. You and I might not have ever had a conversation if we didn't end up in this same thing, because we would be in completely different fields. But I'm so happy that we have. We talked for a long time yesterday. Absolutely. And that was a great conversation. Connected a lot of dots. So welcome to the Barden Report. And then maybe go ahead and say hi to your audience too.
So yes, hello everybody. So you already had a great introduction. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand our reach. So we're broadcasting on 2 channels live. So Michael is broadcasting on his Barden Report. I'm broadcasting on Stop 007. And we really want to have discuss the court case that Michael is having, but much more than that, actually the entire problem of targeting that we're both a victim of. And his case has so many details, and very valuable deductive evidence. So he is an investigative reporter. He's a small business owner and also a U.S. Air Force veteran. And throughout his career, he has experienced a lot of the different aspects of the targeting.
I'm getting some interference.
So I'm broadcasting on Stop. So is it that you're also viewing it on YouTube maybe, and you get the echo? It seems a couple of seconds.
This is the first time this has done this, so it's replaying right now our conversation.
It sounds like you're listening to it on YouTube, so you have to mute. If you're watching it live, you have to mute the live broadcast. So don't mute yourself. You have to, I think somewhere in the background, you have a tab open perhaps, where you are streaming it. Unfortunately, you're muted. No, I can't hear you. Okay, we're just having a bit of technical issues here. I'm just going to wait for a moment. So right now on Google Hangouts, you are muted, and I can't hear if you're saying anything.
Why is it playing back?
So this playback seems to come from your end. And if you have any browser tabs open, then it might be playing it back. So we have this problem usually if the person who is broadcasting is also monitoring the chat, because then on that page, the entire thing is being played back.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you because of all the replaying, and I have never used Google Hangouts before, so I'm trying to find the control to mute that. Why is it playing back?
It sounds like multiple playbacks. It's frankly, yes. It sounds like sabotage. Okay.
Yes, I have no other windows open. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you because of all the replaying, and there are no other windows open. This is so ridiculous.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the NSA announcing its extreme dislike for our broadcast.
There's no.
What you could do, well.
Yes. I have no other window.
Okay. So, all right. Sorry, everybody, about this. I almost anticipated that something like this would happen because Michael and I had a 4.5-hour conversation yesterday about this case, and it's really, has a bombshell, a plethora of bombshell detail. So.
The page is open.
So if you're at a page where you may be broadcasting and watching the broadcast live, I don't know. Now I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. What's going on?
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
so do you have any browser tabs on or open where you're maybe
None.
none?
This one only.
You have Google Chrome open where you're seeing me, is that right? And
There we go. There we go. Okay.
yay.
Oh boy.
That's
I
okay. That's okay.
apologize, everyone. I use Safari every single time I use my computer. Skype was not working. Here, I just switched back to this. So I apologize. I need a tech guy. I hope that a lot of people did not leave that interview because of that. So, all right, we're back.
We're back. As far as my viewers are concerned, they're totally used to this. The first 15 minutes, I call them the academic quarter of an hour. Either I'm late, or there's sabotage, or I'm they change my voice so that I sound like a chipmunk.
Oh,
so we
yeah,
had it all.
That happened to me once when I tried to sing karaoke. They changed the sound on the little thing. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So, you know what? I'm so sorry that got interrupted, and you were right in the middle of your introduction. And if you want to start that over, please do. I apologize.
So, so basically, what Michael and I did yesterday is we discussed his case, and I think we ended up talking for over 4 hours about the case. And there's so much detail, and it includes the typical type of harassment, gang stalking, but much more detailed sabotage. We also talked about implants and many other things, but currently Michael's involved in litigation, and maybe we should start off with you explaining what the litigation is about, and then take it from there, because the trigger for the litigation is strongly reminiscent of the case that we had in France of Frederic Laroche, where the state seems to involve a victim in a setup and then blow it out of all proportions. So something utterly trivial is then blown up even further, taken to court, and then all sorts of ludicrous allegations are made that seem to be absolutely nonsensical and a pack of lies. And then they try to get the most extreme outcome for the victim from this, and really capitalize on this to take somebody down. Now, my experience is that they do these sort of big SWAT operations, swatting somebody down, when a victim is particularly close to uncovering something extremely damaging, and they want to remove the victim. So maybe we should start off. Michael, can you explain to us what the current litigation is about?
Yes, I ended up being arrested on January 4th for aggravated assault with a firearm. And I know that sounds terrible to a lot of people right off, but I wanted to start off with that because it's kind of shocking to hear that, and that's what they were going for. I was investigating organized stalking and harassment. I've been a targeted individual for as long as I can remember, as I understand the targeting program, and I can put information. Here, let me put this together here so people can see both of us. As I put information together, I understood more of how this program worked, and I worked back on my timeline in my life and realized that a lot of the bad luck that I've had in my life was not bad luck at all. They were staged trauma-based mind control incidents. And, if somebody would have told me you're going through trauma-based mind control 10 years ago, I said, yeah, you're one of those crazy people. And now I completely understand how this works. So that's, why I'm trying to do this too, is because there's a lot of ignorance that fuels this. So I started filming in November of 2017. I went through a lot of trauma-based skits, different instances in my life, and realized that it was much too surreal to be organic and just natural events. There was too many perfectly timed things. And I thought, okay, I need to figure, I'm in something. I have no clue what it is, but this is like a weird movie. It's kind of like the Truman Show, and I said, I need to start documenting. Somebody out there has to hear this at least and come to me and go, what are you talking about? So I started making these videos. And actually, no, I'm sorry, let me rewind a little bit. I started researching first, and I found some videos talking about organized stalking and harassment, organized stalking and harassment. Karen Milton Stewart had some videos, and I saw that she'd worked for the NSA for 28 years. She'd passed the psych eval every single year, and she was explaining exactly what was happening to me in my personal life. It was the first person I've heard explain what was going on, and I thought, okay, there's no way this lady worked there for that long, and she all of a sudden is delusional and having the identical delusion to me. So I thought, okay, here's the avenue I'm going down. Here we go. And well, here I am talking to you now. But I started filming on November 2017. You know, I was a journalist in the Air Force for 10 years. During that time, I wasn't active duty. I was active duty for 5 years as a firefighter, and then went into journalism. I worked at the base 3 or 4 months out of the year. I deployed a lot. I went on TDYs. That's basically not a wartime deployment, but like a training not a vacation, training. Sometimes it felt like one. They were pretty fun sometimes. Training mission, stuff like that. So I did that, and I thought, you know what, I have a lot of practice documenting things that have a lot of small detail, a lot of attention to detail, you know, and I better do that, or else these people are never going to stop. This is so out of hand. There's big rig trucks flying through the intersection. Well, I mean, you just have to go back through all my videos. All the people that are watching this probably have already heard all this from me, but it was complete chaos. And I started filming this, and one of the, unfortunately, if you are one of the people that are first watching this, unfortunately, in this targeting program, police, fire, and EMS are involved through federal funding. At least here in the United States, it's probably the same, you know, where you are too, to play out these skits. And one of these officers was playing one of these street theater skits on me, laughing really loud and doing this weird stuff. And I happened to have my camera on, and I was talking to the guy at the counter, and I was explaining to him, you know, I know that you've done some street theater on me, some direct conversation. He goes, "Oh, really? Yeah. You know, put me in your documentary." And I was like, "Oh, buddy, be careful what you ask for. I'm going to." And then the police officer was right behind me, laughing, cackling, just right behind me. And that's just one of the things I've done repetitively over time to sensitize me. So instead of, you know, freaking out and saying, "Wait, what do you, leave me alone?" I just turned my camera on and I started talking to her like I would talk to one of my fellow firefighters or one of the police that I had worked with many times before in the Air Force, or a general or a congressman or a senator. I've had these kind of conversations with people, asking them questions saying, "Hey, should we do that?" Not, you know, not that I had to be saying anything, but I'd always ask him. You know, so I didn't feel uncomfortable talking to this police officer. It was just I've done it a million times. So I just said, "Hey, I'm going through this thing. I don't know exactly what it is." The video's on YouTube. There's, I don't know, 15,000 views, something like that. Going through this thing, and I don't know what it is, but people are breaking into my house. I'm investigating abuse from when I was a child. I'm never going to give up until I find these people, and I wanted to let you know, and I want to make a report. And she's like laughing at me. I forgot the part where she says that they were investigating a targeted individual, and the targeted individual died, but she can't tell me any more about it because it's an investigation, and it was this weird psychological thing trying to intimidate me. So I told her I'm not going to stop investigating this until I find these people. 2 weeks later, I get, I messaged my ex-wife, her mother, sister-in-law, brother. They were part of the organized stalking and harassment in my life. And I messaged all of them, text messaged them, and I wasn't nice about it. I said, "I know exactly who people are. I know what you've done. I'm going to figure this out." And it wasn't that, yeah, like I said, it wasn't that pleasant. The next day, I had 3 restraining orders show up at my door. This was just about 2 weeks after the video was uploaded on YouTube. I don't know what possessed me to send those messages to them that specific day, but you know, it was when I finally realized, when I completely understood, yes, these people are completely guilty, and I'm going to let them know.
Just to clarify, because this is a really important point, and I didn't remember it from yesterday about restraining orders. So
I
sent
forgot
to
to tell
your
you.
ex-wife and her relatives text messages, and the next day you had already restraining orders sent to you?
Yes, yes, the next day. And I have the text messages still. I've saved those, and I have the restraining order. The restraining order is done now. This was over a year ago. There's no restraining order. I'm clearly not a threat. They made it fine. You know, it's ridiculous. So,
may I ask, I mean, was there any prehistory, or was this,
no,
were the text messages the first time that you contacted them about this?
this is the first time that I'd contacted them about this like this. I had always done my best to get along with these people. They would always gaslight me. I didn't know what gaslighting was. I didn't know what double entendres were. I didn't know that these people did this kind of thing, that you know, I had no clue that this was kind of like when I went to go buy this new computer. I didn't know that Mac updated the USB port. I had no idea to look for it. It's that kind of thing. So,
just to sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I want people to really like flag this. I'm trying also in the meantime, because I'm preparing these court cases here in Europe. I'm trying to flag things and mention things that people can quote in a court case as something extremely odd. Because I'm sorry, I think the average person who doesn't have anything, nothing is going on. I mean, who on earth, who gets a bunch of text messages one day, organizes a lawyer, organizes a restraint order to be delivered the next day? How on earth is that possible?
Unless they already had it ready and they were waiting. He's going to say something. We know him. We've been around him for 10 years. We know when he finds this out. And they show it to you intentionally to let you know, hey, we did this to you in different ways, because they want you to be antagonized. They want you to know, hey, we did this to you. And it sounds so ridiculous to a person that can't process this kind of information or hasn't been through it. So it's tough for some people to think about, but please do, everybody, think a little deeper into this. It's the only way to figure this out.
One question I have is, out of those people you sent a text message to, are there any lawyers, or do they have any lawyer spouses?
Not that I can think of off of the top of my head. Nobody was an attorney, but they were from a small town, a large group of people, well connected. Yes, as a matter of fact, thank you for asking me. The person that married us was a judge in California. His name was Ernie LaCalci, part of the Catholic Church, personal friend of my ex-wife's, and he was a former detective. He was a former police officer, I think, working on murder cases. So that person was, and yes.
Was this one of the people you messaged?
No. I didn't message him. I used to have conversations with him, and I was friendly with him. He was the guy that married me, and I was friends with him on Facebook, and we, But
so your wife, at the point when you sent the text messages, your wife had a close, friendly relationship with this guy, you think?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they still have a relationship.
Because,
I don't want to assume that's what happened, but it's highly likely that.
I don't want to insinuate anything, but one of the things, my very first question is, the bottom line is, and this will become clear through the interview, you ended up at the center of something extraordinarily weird, where a lot of people seem to be involved as a kind of actors and players, game players, as they call themselves, or whatever. And now I want to, at every step now, I want us to start thinking about who the hell can be involved. And depending on what type of professions you have, I mean, if you have a lawyer who does this every day and he gets a, pissy text message, maybe he can be bothered to send a restraining order the next day. But I think normal people, if I get any, and I get a lot of messages, that are out of order, I do not even snap into action then. So most people would think, oh, maybe he was drunk, or maybe he just got angry. I really can't be bothered. I've got things to do. Let's just ignore it. I mean, if this would be a text message in a long series that went over weeks and months, maybe. But otherwise, what I'm kind of insinuating.
Yeah, like that. I've read stories. Some girl sent some guy like 150,000 text messages, and they finally did it. I send one night. I send them some text messages.
Yeah.
But I do need to back up to talk about when I was arrested, because that was right after I'm sorry, maybe you weren't finished talking about that part.
No. I think that's okay. I wanted to basically flag it because for me, the bottom line is that there seems to be already at that incident, it's obvious that there's a bigger, well-prepared operation behind all this. Because I mean, even if you post restraining orders, how the hell do they arrive the next day?
Yeah.
You know?
And I posted that video of getting that restraining order finally after the restraining order ran out. I said, okay, it's not active anymore. I'm posting this video. And I tried to report some pretty serious things, and those guys completely ignored me and never heard anything back. You guys can check that video out. Yeah, it's not easy to watch some of the information on there. I'm telling the cops, so be careful if you're easily offended or, yeah. So about a week later after that, it was January 4th. I go to the store, and I don't want to go through all of the details of the whole situation. You and I talked about that for a long time yesterday. There's all kinds of information. I put all the videos out, recordings of the plaintiff explaining what was going on. But long story short, one of these organized groups, and they were all in white cars. This day, they'll trade off. Some days there'll be all white cars in these groups. Oh, my dog is trying to get in right now and barking at me. I'm so sorry, everybody. Hold on, buddy. Perfect timing, everybody. They're in these white cars at the convenience store. They're doing the standard operating procedure. The guy's crunkling a bag of chips, acting weird, looking over the chips, looking at me. Long story short, we get in a verbal argument. He pulls a gun out of his window, follows me to my house. I end up arrested. All of the details are in all of my videos, everybody, so that I'm not just pushing through this quick because I don't want to tell anything. It's all out there. I end up in jail that night for aggravated assault. I tried to tell these police officers, hey, these people are part of organized stalking and harassment. I'm a targeted individual. They're stalking me and harassing me. You know, they wouldn't listen to me. I had a form that was like 3 pages long explaining exactly what it was, explaining that it's similar to Zerzat Singh. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's
First time. All
right. Maybe what's important to know for the viewers who are new, so my channel, the viewers might be new to your case, is that the actual charge is aggravated assault, and from what I've understood throughout the entire episode, you didn't really get out of your car, did you?
No, not during. No. Well, see, for aggravated assault, you basically, if you point a firearm at anyone, unless you are being attacked, there's a stand your ground law here in Arizona. You cannot point a firearm at anybody. You're trying to intimidate them with your firearm. You can't do it. So that is mandatory minimum 5 years in prison. Now, if you don't point the firearm at them and you brandish the weapon and you just hold it up like that, I believe it's something different. I don't know, because they kept asking me specifically, did you just show it to him or did you point it at him? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, what are you talking about? They were trying to get me to go to, you know, and then they asked me specifically over and over, did he point the gun at you or did he just brandish it? And I said, did he just brandish it? I said, I have the video of it. Will you please watch it? He held the gun out of his window and I freeze framed it. I've got screenshots and I've showed, you know, tried to show all kinds of people. I tried to show my attorney and he said, it's too grainy. We can't use that in court. You know, and all this stuff. And I said, I'm a former Air Force video journalist. I can put all this together for us. We don't need to hire anybody. I can show you exactly what these people are doing. And they refused to give. Here's the point of the whole case right here. There were 11 police officers that responded to this incident. Very quickly, they were swarming around me. I realized they were about to do something terrible, possibly. So I got out, put my hands up as high as I could. Made sure I was underneath a bright light, street light, let them arrest me. The guy got out, pointed his gun at me, you know, get on the ground, all that stuff. You can hear it in the police, the audio that I did get, but not one person from all 11 of those officers that had body cameras on them. And it says in the police discovery, our body camera malfunctioned during questioning. And I asked for an attorney over and over. I said, I don't want to say anything. I want to speak to an attorney. I need an attorney. And then questioning is supposed to stop there because I wanted to speak to an attorney. I knew I was in a weird situation. So they wouldn't let me talk to an attorney, took me to jail, arrested me for aggravated assault with a firearm, evading police. I was driving through my neighborhood trying to get away from this guy, Russell Roberts, that had followed me in a construction vehicle to my home where my kids are. You know, so I'm trying to get away from this guy that had just pulled a firearm on me, followed me to my home. And yeah, so they said, you were running from the police. So turns out this guy's a former police officer. How am I supposed to know that if he's in a construction truck that says ACT whatever bio, and he's got yellow and white lights on the top, you know? So that's not how it works here in the United States. It's so yeah, so they arrested me for that, and I have an electronic ankle monitor on my ankle that I've had on since the next day. I spent the night in jail. I don't know if I had street theater or ran into genuine targeted individuals in the prison here. I mean, it's not in the prison, in the jail, in the intake, but several people were having symptoms of what were like V2K. I don't know if they were acting it out or if they were actually having it. I couldn't tell with some of them. Some were for sure actors because they you know, let themselves be known. But there were several people that told me they were targeted individuals. They didn't really use that term, but they were telling me all of the things that were going on in their life and how they ended up in there and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, a lot of TIs do end up in here. If that's really the case, you know, they all end up in there, a mental facility, you know, and then on some kind of psychotropic or SSRI drugs, you know. And I started thinking about this whole process and how big it is and how much profit the private prison system would make and how much profit the psychological industry would make and how much profit Big Pharma would make, and on and on and on. If they found a way, and I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here, but if they found a way to control the environment to where people would continually be sick and be aggravated and be, you know, in these situations. And so,
you know, I think this is exactly the point. I mean, oops, I echo again. I know, maybe you could mute yourself very briefly, and then I switch it back on when you speak, and then we can cut out the stupid sabotage that they're doing, because it seems very odd. I don't think it comes from you. So
I'm okay over here. You're having echo?
And no echo at all from you. So that's why I assume that it's you know, something that's being externally pumped. But so one of the things that I want to clarify for the viewers, because the court case is really the pivot point in all this. You know, so the actual incident came, you said, a week after these text messages where you started accusing your ex-wife and her relatives of gaslighting you.
My timeline is off, but it was all within about 3 weeks. It was all within about 3 weeks from the time I messaged them, got the restraining orders, and then then I was arrested. It was the restraining orders right in there. So oh, I'm sorry. From the time I uploaded the video at the convenience store, I text messaged them, got the restraining orders. Right in between that, not long after that, I was arrested at
this big
right at the same place, right where I took the video, you know, of the police officer asking her, hey, why don't you, if you can't do anything about this, run it at the chain of command, call the FBI. If you don't have the tools to do this, I know how the process works. If you can't do the job, you send it up. And if you don't, you're liable. You're legally liable for not doing your job. When I was a firefighter, if we didn't respond to a fire that was across the street, which just happened to me one time, and I won't go into that whole story, but we weren't allowed to respond to a structure fire. We weren't allowed to go do it. If you would get sued for that entire business. If there was people in there, loss of life, you know, you have to take action. And that's the same thing. I'm telling them that this is going on. They refuse to do anything. And on top of it, make fun of me. You know, like, oh, ha, that's really funny. Do the little street theater thing. That's a huge liability. And they've gotten to the point where they have so much power that they don't even care anymore. And they just think it's funny. And I think that's going to be their downfall, actually.
I think so. I think so. And this is, I see, you know, in your case, has such a wealth of deductive leads and real kind of, you know, toeholds for litigation. So just to get it clear, you filmed an actual police officer, and it's on this film how he's laughing at you and basically doing all the moves, or she doing all the moves for what I would call street theater, which can also happen indoor, but it's kind of these spectacles.
Yeah, the conversation is so bizarre.
Yeah. And this police officer is identified by name? Do you know?
I don't know if I got her name, the name badge on the I haven't been documenting everybody's names and looking at the individual people. I've been trying to document just everything that's going on and try to show people the patterns of everything. So, it's amazing how much information you put in order. If I write something down, it ends up on a piece of paper in my drawer and I'd lose it. And so I just, I'm an audio guy, so I'm just focusing.
One advice I would like to have, I would like to give to everybody, and also to my viewers, because I hear these entrapment operations all the time, and especially the gaslighting, the harassment from police officers, is that every single time you have some sort of government official or somebody who has some sort of official job to protect and care for victims, right? If they are out of order, you immediately get their name, because depending on how out of order they are, and how unusual this is, it could be an indication that they're in on it. And at the end of the day, we know that our systems are in deep capture by organized crime. So these people are members of a criminal syndicate, and we need to remove them from the system. And for that, we really need the names. But also, as you're building a case against them and the people who might be involved in your targeting, that's where you should really put the focus. What they are trying to do is push every single victim into a defensive war, into a defensive move. So they first attack you with things like false allegations, entrapment operations, setups, this, and that. And then you have to fight to undo the damage they did.
Dig yourself out of the hole. Yeah, once you realize, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're explaining this perfectly, what happened in my life. And it's before you realize that you're in a war, it's a war against you. They want you to go down. By the time you realize you were in a fight, you're so deep in this hole, and you're trying to tell everybody all of these things happen. They go, oh, it sounds like you made some bad decisions, but no, they want you to be back on your heels in the defensive position, just withdrawn, loss of hope, in a bad position to not be able to fight back when you finally understand what's going on. So that's that. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry. I did that all day, or when we were talking yesterday, but you say something that really resonates with me, and it just kind of comes out. So I'll apologize.
I'm glad you do that, because what I want to do is I want to teach people how to turn everything that they do back against them. So as soon as you have a police officer engaged in any sort of harassment, ideally you film it, or second best is an audio recording or something, and then you grab and you claw away at the system until you get that person's name, because in a court case that is worth gold. And in the court cases, they always want to refer to individuals, what they did, and individual names. Now, what's important also is, as soon as you have a police officer's name, you can find out what station he works for. As soon as you know the station he works for, you have a lead onto which station might already be captured by organized crime. And I think every single police station in the Western world has now a mix. So it's like a patchwork of honest police officers working hard and typically being screwed themselves by these people, 100%. And then these total criminals.
Yep. Yeah. I say this, I repeat this all the time. I did this in my insurance agency. I just found good things to repeat that I like to say. I said, there's always, in every large group, there's the good guys or the bad guys, and there's the people stuck in the middle that really don't know what's going on. I was in that category for a while. And when I started to realize, hey, wait, there's actually some bad guys in the military. I grew up watching G.I. Joe, and I know, but there's no way anybody could be smart enough to go, hey, I'm a criminal. How could I get away with this? These people that wear these uniforms, everybody loves them. Maybe I could figure out how to wear one of these uniforms. And I think that happened. They made it up to the different ranks, and identified the other psychopathic narcissists and said, all right, let's get rid of all these people that are just, doing their job to make the world a better place. And we're going to take this power over and use that to our advantage. And that's what's going on right now. And that's who I hope all these indictments here in the United States are for. These 70,000 indictments. I hope they're for those people that infiltrated a good concept and abused it, and it spread around. Let it spread around the world. So there you go. Right.
With the indictments, I'm not gonna. I don't want to dishearten people. I hope. I mean, everybody in our, in the back of their minds, especially if they are not psychopathic, we all have a kind of like a herd instinct, a group instinct, which also immediately implies that there's a group leader. So what happens, this is a psychological effect. It's kind of like an echo of our genetics, because we are group animals. When we're in a really, sticky situation, we are hoping for some group leader to come in and sort it out, some sort of deus ex machina or some higher power that will come in and sort it. Now, my question is, who the hell compiled those 70,000 indictments? Question number one. Question number two is, if there are 70,000 indictments, when the hell will they start processing them, and why haven't they processed them? And the third question is, how come that the terror watch lists are utterly filled to the brim, really actual real-life terror watch lists with single moms, pensioners, disabled people, US veterans who are being targeted with military weapons by the police, by the military, by intel. So every single government organization is targeting the innocents, and those innocents are on the terror watch lists. So who the hell, if all these government organizations are involved, which government organization precisely compiled those 70,000 indictments? Because as far as I can tell, they're all a bunch of criminals run by criminals. So what if the 70,000 indictments were compiled by the criminals against us?
Yeah, so I'm hoping they're not for us. You know, yeah, wow, that would be not good.
Who would have compiled them? I ask you, because we know that the Attorney General's office, I mean, you know, that's another question, right? You have 350 million people in the US, pretty much the same thing in Europe overall, all countries together. And then in the US, you've got one Attorney General's office for 350 million people. I mean, how the hell does that work out? So all a crime cutter has to do is corrupt that one bastard, and they have the whole system under lockdown. So
I think possibly, here's just me being hopeful, and you know, I've been following this a lot, so possibly, and QAnon could be completely fake. I don't go by it 100%, but I've found a couple things in there that pointed me in the right direction, some different things. But I think possibly there are some people here in the United States military that know that our government has been circumvented, and they are constitutionalists, they are patriots, and they've had to find a long-term way to get these people out of government. And I'm hoping that they use the military tribunal, and I hope that those people found a way somehow through the Uniform Code of Military Justice or somehow through our system to serve the indictments on the people that have sold us out and have allowed all of our rights to be violated. That's my hope. I don't. Yeah, I know it's kind of reaching, right? But it's just a possibility that I've kind of ran through my head, and you know, it's like a great ending to a movie or something like that. So I just like to keep that in the back of my head just in case. But it actually is looking kind of bad with the people, and you and I talked about this yesterday. You know, the CIA have been involved in so many different things that are not good, and now all of a sudden we have 3 different people from the CIA at real high positions here in the United States. And the most recent one worked directly with George Bush, the first George Bush, who was, you know, the head of the CIA. He is a deep state thug, not even in my opinion, it's pretty much proven. You know, he is not a good guy, and this guy worked directly with him. So did somehow along the way this guy changed his mind to go, you know what, I'm going to redo my past and I'm going to do something good now. I don't know, man. It's tough to try to be positive. It looks kind of shaky.
Well, you know, I've been following this from Europe, and I recognize several things. So one of the really good things he said is, then it would be like the ending to a movie. And that's you know, exactly how everybody thinks. I completely agree with you, but you have to be very aware that every single movie that most people have watched was made by the crime cartel. So they have set you up. They have kind of pre-programmed you over and over for this kind of like, okay, tension, happy end, you know, Hollywood cycle. And this is why I see a real danger, because what we are basing everything on is hope. All right. And we had change and hope before, and it turned really sour. So let's just not place it on hope. Let's place it on deductive evidence. Now, when I look at the deductive evidence, I see the following big red flags. Number one, Trump appointed Gina Haspel, who is a psychopath. Okay. But she is also most likely, I don't have any precise direct evidence, but knowing the system and what people have to do to get to these kind of high places, like being the head of the CIA, she's also most likely somebody who must have been at some point involved in ritual sacrifice. Otherwise, you don't get really to be the head of the CIA or the head of MI6 for that matter. So she's pretty much a serial killer. Okay, so you've got a psychopathic serial killer made head of the CIA. It's so big. She was involved in the extraordinary rendition, in the targeted and pointless torture of victims around the world. And by the way, this torture served no military purpose. So it was more of a snuff movie or sadistic porn that was most likely filmed and sold around the world, because it had no military strategic point whatsoever. Now you have this woman being made head of the CIA. I call her basically a psychopathic serial killer, most likely, and head of sadistic porn, because I think it's the porn industry behind this. Then you have Justice Kavanaugh, who I think is a Jesuit, and did the Masonic handshake at his inauguration with Donald Trump, who's a Mason. So it's like a joke, you know, a psychopathic serial killer, most likely, a Jesuit and a Mason walk into a bar. Now, these people, okay, these are now the newest additions. They don't really raise much hope. And then you have a big wall being built. And my question is the wall to keep the immigrants out, or is it to keep the Americans in when the US Space Command expands its mass extermination program that they have just field tested in California? That's my question. And then with all this, you tell me that there are 70,000 indictments. Well, if you really want to shut down a crime cartel, you don't file secret indictments. You switch the government money off to the gang stalkers and you sack the heads of the fusion centers. But, you know, that hasn't happened. So, and then just to finish off on, then we return to your court case. But now that we talk about it, super important. These 70,000 indictments, again, military tribunals, and you pointed out that there's a new executive order that allows the military to be deployed within America. And you pointed out that it's, you know, yesterday that the US military is being brought back from Syria. So it sounds like they have to be deployed in the US. And then these military tribunals will, you know, well, we heard about Walmarts and guillotines being bought at Walmarts and Walmarts being run as secret FEMA detention camps. And then Guantanamo was expanded, and these military tribunals are to take place away from the US, where the public cannot travel, where the broadcast, if any, will take place, will be highly controlled. This doesn't really look that good to me. To me, it really looks like a Nazi mass extermination program of the Americans. And if I had to do an educated guess, to me, it looks very much like as soon as the wall is finished and as soon as these US military people have been brought back, they would be let loose on the American people. You have an attorney general who is corrupt as F. You have a Supreme Court judge that is a Jesuit, and you have the head of the CIA.
There goes our feed. So, well, you know, so a lot of this is probably verifiable information. I still think there's a possibility that I lost Dr. Horton. I'm sorry, my lips are really dry too. My ears are burning. What is up? Jeez, my ears are burning. My back's burning right now. My lips are ridiculously dry. Drank plenty of water. Dr. Horton is not, she's frozen right now, it looks like. Right in the middle of what she was saying some pretty interesting stuff. Man, yeah, there's a lot of folks that have an interesting history that are surrounding Donald Trump right now, and I think there are different scenarios that can play out, other than just, you know, this one that she was talking about. She's a very smart person. Something to look into. There's other avenues also, I believe. I'm hoping that the indictments are for the bad guys. It's really tough to say, you know. Where is Dr. Horton? Maybe if let's see. Sorry, everybody. I'm sure this was just a coincidence. All right, let me turn that off. Wow, what? I never thought I'd be having a conversation like this. What an interesting conversation Hopefully Dr. Horton is back. I see her picture. There you are. There you are.
This was so funny. This was so funny. I was just going literally nuts at them. And then suddenly I had the blue screen from Windows, which is just, you know,
Saying how that was impeccable timing, and how it was just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Absolutely. What was the last word that you heard, or the last sentence?
The last thing I heard, I think you said that Kavanaugh was a Jesuit,
Oh,
and then
right.
everything blanked out on my end. Yeah, no, I was getting a little nervous when you were saying all that stuff, you know, and it's because it's true. I'm sure. I don't know. I haven't researched all of that. You know more about it than I do, but it's I'm getting kind of a pit in my stomach because I've had a lot of hope in the plan, trusting the plan, but I see the two different avenues that it could go. You know, awesome ending of a movie. All the bad guys go to jail. We all, hey, we're free again. We can ride our old bikes down the street, not have to worry about the Nazis. But then again, I understand the other scenario where we could be being led to the trains. You know, Operation Paperclip didn't start for a reason. Been working on that for a long time, and nothing that they'll do fast. They play it out over a long period of time, so it's covert. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. I want to have hope.
I think that's the thing. For me, the worst thing is this whole trust the plan thing, because I don't even know who Q is. Why the hell should I trust somebody? I don't even know who they are, what their plan is, and where the hell they're going with it. So, you know, what I wanted to say is, if people just trust the plan, they are entrusting their life and their children's life onto an unknown group with unknown goals. This is the worst thing you can do. So instead, what I really want everybody to do, and while they're watching your, you know, this broadcast and hear about your court case, I want everybody, all of you who are watching, I want them all to think about, what can I do? Because when I hear these 70,000 indictments, my first questions, especially to the victims, are, have you filed any? I mean, you have a list of perps and your long list of perps. Have you filed any charges against any of them? And I have rarely met a victim who has filed court charges recently that would possibly even count towards these indictments or led to them. So my question is, if none of us victims, who probably have the longest list of perps we can name with pretty solid evidence, if none of us has filed any charges, who the hell has filed so many charges?
Yeah.
So it very much looks like the other side. So now the question is how to turn it around. And when I really was taken offline, it was so funny because the Windows blue screen has a little, and this is just, it just went blue screen. And that's what they usually do if they get very pissed off with me. Has a little sad face, you know, at the corner. So I just got the little cartel sad face when I said it all. So let me just summarize. I said, Gina Haspel is a psychopath, okay? And most likely because of her position and what we know about the system, a serial killer who has been involved in the production of snuff movies and all these things that happen at Guantanamo and detention centers. To me, they sound like sadistic porn. High value porn you can sell to a lot of people who are into that stuff. In terms of military strategy, their value is zero. So for me,
exactly. And again, I'm cutting you off. I'm so sorry, but you are speaking to. I'm understanding what you're saying. I told you this in our conversation yesterday. When I was a little kid, I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. My dad was explaining to me what a snuff film was. I've known what a snuff film was since before. Yeah, I was a little kid, 2nd, 3rd grade. I knew way too much stuff that I shouldn't have known. But he worked at Lockheed Martin. He worked in one of these government. He worked for Skunk Works. You know, this stuff happens. And if you don't know what a snuff film is, folks, if you've never heard of this, it's a terrible thing. For some reason, some people like to pay a lot of money to see someone die on film. And they will lure somebody into an area, they will kill them, and ridiculously rich people that have done everything in the world and they're bored with that. They think the thing that is going to entertain them is a snuff film. So that's what that is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. So for me, and when I look at it, you always have to look at monetary value or military strategic value. And the entire detention center malarkey, and including Guantanamo Bay, has zero military strategy value. At the same time, it has high, necrophilia porn movie and snuff movie market value. So that's more likely to be the case. Okay, so you have a woman who was involved in the porn production industry, for the CIA. And then you have Justice Kavanaugh, who seems to be a Jesuit as far as I can tell, but who most definitely did the Masonic handshake with Donald Trump, who actually said live on camera that he's a Mason. So you have this, triumvirate.
I haven't seen that. I need to look that part up. I
will look it straight up, because there's a yes, I will find it on the show and post it in a second as you're speaking. So I will forward the proofs. But then with these people, with the wall being built, with these Walmarts being repurposed as FEMA detention camps, and also with these military tribunals happening away, this is so important. If it were the American people healing the country, it should be the American people identifying the criminals, right? Not top down, because the top is in deep capture by the Masons, by the Jesuits, who are the front for the foreign controlled, right, Vatican crime cartel. So if it's top down, it comes from the Vatican crime cartel. If it's bottom up, right, it should look like that all these thousands and millions of targeted individuals have filed their list of charges against all the police officers, corrupt judges, corrupt doctors, corrupt neighbors. And if those lists have been compiled and filed, then I believe that these charges are against them. But up until then, you guys haven't done the work, right? That's what I'm saying.
So let's talk about how people can start doing that. You came up with, I was going through this chart that you made, and if you were a targeted individual, you already understand what I'm talking about. It's almost impossible to write down what's happened to you. You know, somebody will say something like, well, give me the 30-second version. And you go, yeah, right. They'll give you the 30-day version. But Dr. Horton has devised this chart, and this is a program of organized, compartmentalized groups, and that's about the only way that you can write all of this down in groups. So Dr. Horton's made this chart where you can, and I should have had that ready to pull it up. I'm sure. Anyway, it's on her website.
I can actually show it. I can share my screen and just show it briefly. So what it is actually an affidavit template to be used in court, and people can get through to this. It's at two places. It's at Stop 007, but it's also on the Joint Investigation team, so jointinvestigation.org. But I will just sorry about this. Share my screen. So this is stop007.org, and you can get to this affidavit template very quickly if you follow the first link under news. And then the returned affidavits, they are published. Okay, so this is the first link you should follow, and I will talk more about these affidavit templates here, but this is what it looks like. Now, the returned affidavits that have been submitted to me, those you get if you follow the second link down here. So the first victim affidavit submitted here, and then every single person can download. These are the first 5 people who have filed the affidavit with me. It's being published anonymously. So the first page and the last page have been stripped, and the actual published section, all it contains is the summary. So this is the index. And then what it looks like is a long list of every page has this tick box. It's a tick box affidavit where every offense is codified, and people state when the offense started. Here, for example, overt surveillance started in 1999 on a daily basis. Here, and so on and so on. And every victim affidavit will contain so many offenses. I mean, as I'm scrolling through, you can just see how many. Now, writing all these up would end up with thousands of pages. So I needed a quick way to compare many affidavits. And what these affidavits contain, if I may just scroll up to the summary, they come with a personal oath, a document authentication code, which I'll show. But then it comprises classical crime, intrusive surveillance, which is, even filming of your indoor rooms, neighborhood terror. It includes landlords, being involved, the opening of post and packages, stalking and attacks in restaurants, housebreaking, which you mentioned, Michael, then stalking and gang stalking, street theater outside, attacks when you're driving, crimes traveling abroad, and then it goes on and on and on about hacking, banking fraud, business and employment being sabotaged. But it also includes the advanced stuff, which is directed energy weapons, biowarfare, neurotechnology, implants, pathogens, fungi, parasites, torture, measurements, many things. So it goes on and on and on and on. And the idea is that every victim can go here. So this is the returned affidavits. Every victim can use the returned affidavits to back up their own case when they're filing in court. And if you want to fill one out, you follow the first link and you download these 3 documents. The first is explanatory notes that explain in detail how the affidavit works. And then the affidavit template itself, which should be filled out in OpenOffice format. So OpenOffice is just like Microsoft Word, but for free. And then here's the PDF. And I'm just going to pass the microphone back in a second. I just wanted to show that the first page that I would strip if it's published contains the oath. So people state their name and address and state on oath that everything that they say in this affidavit is based on their personal knowledge and is true. Okay, so there's an ID photograph, and then this is the main part of the affidavit. So this is the start of the public part. You will see the index, the summary that I just showed you. And let me just jump to the end, where you can also note down implant locations or the location on your body of attacks and pain that they're causing. And then at the very end, you can list perpetrators anonymously. And here is a statement of truth. And as soon as you have the oath at the beginning and the statement of truth signed and witnessed before a person entitled to administer oaths, this whole thing becomes a court document, okay? And what I was trying to set up, if all of us, if all the victims fill out an affidavit like that, what I will do is I will publish it anonymously. It also comes with the permissions that I can use it for my court case, actually file it in a court case. But then all the other victims can download these anonymous affidavits and say, look, there are all these people who are testifying about exactly the same complex crimes that I'm testifying about. So from that moment onwards, you can talk about housebreaking, stalking, directed energy weapons, implants, remote neural monitoring, synthetic telepathy, synthetic dreams, everything. And you suddenly have many, many people saying exactly the same thing under oath in a court valid document. So that's the whole point.
And that will cause a ripple effect. Once a few of those go through, 100,000 people submit one of these. One of them is going to break through the weak part of the I don't want to say that wrong. Anyway, one of them will get through, and eventually another one will, and another one will, and then there'll be all these cases to refer to. And that jogged my memory that you told me some new information that I've never heard before about court cases in the UK and court cases in the US. Now, on top of that, I want to tell you, in US schools, the law and litigation and the court system is not taught in school. The information is very hard to find. This is something that you never even come up with thinking about if you don't end up in a situation where you need an attorney, unless you have some parents say, hey, you need to be an attorney, you need to know the law, they already know all this stuff. But it's really not something we're taught in schools until you take that chance to get to college. Oh, geez, I went off track. What was I just talking about, Catherine? I do this all the time. I did this.
No, that's actually big. Later on, we'll talk about the chip implants that we discussed. So anybody who's chipped, and you were in the U.S. Air Force, so I would say most likely you are chipped, just like I am. What they can do is they will throw you off with the chip implants by just pulsing your head, and then you suddenly lose your train of thought. And most people don't know what the hell happened to them. But this is a technology developed by DARPA, and I can show you an article about that. And it's called narrative disruptors. Okay. And the article, actually, I can pull it up. So if people Google narrative disruptors,
so frustrating.
Disruptor DARPA, okay, you will get through to this. You will find many a lot of mentioning of this in the press of this particular article. But let me just share my screen and show you the article I mean. It's this one here. So secret DARPA mind control project revealed, leaked documents. Okay, this is here quoted December 2018, but there are articles quoting it, I think, from 2017 already, or 2016. So this is the whistleblower reveals military mind control project at major university. Hey.
Guess which university? Guess which one? Guess Does it say ASU, Arizona State University? But
Exactly, Arizona State University.
my house here. Imagine that.
Imagine that. So you are literally you are living next door to these people, and this was a ongoing mind control project for DARPA. Okay, so if you live next to this, I'm just scrolling through the article. People should download this for their court case. So if you're living next to a university that's involved in the narrative disruptors, I'm not surprised that you lost your train of thought.
No wonder there's so many people around. It seems like, you know, I'm the only one. I know that that's part of what they make you think, that you're the only one that's going through this and other. But man, there are a lot around here. You know, I've lived in California, I've lived in Oklahoma, I've lived in Tennessee, I've lived in Texas, lived all over. I've been out of the country. You know, I've seen different places geographically, how they operate and stuff. And man, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And yeah, well, they're right down the street. Luke Air Force Base is not too far from my house, which, you know, I'm still, you know, I haven't become anti-military. I've become anti these compartmentalized groups that are taking place in unconstitutional and human rights violation. What was the word we were using yesterday? Human trafficking is one, but crimes against humanity. Crimes against humanity is the word you use, and I haven't been using that term, but I know for a fact that not everybody in the military knows about this kind of stuff or is involved. There's no way, with me being as vigilant as I am, that I would have made it through 15 years without knowing some of it. So I do have faith. I have faith. I know that there are some good people in there. So if they can get those compartmentalized groups out, get the people out that are running or allowing these and allowing the contracts to slip through because of profit and stuff like that. That's the answer to that, because I'm pro Department of Defense. I like that. I like defense. They should train. They should be ready to protect our country or our interests and stuff like that. But, you know, it was the Department of War before that, and it should be called that now, in my opinion. So anyway.
Or maybe we should have the department for the prevention of war, you know.
Yeah.
In the meantime, as you were talking, I just found the video with where Trump says, "I'm a Mason." Now, I would like to just, because I think it's important, because the Masonic crime cartel is at the heart of this. Now, I don't want to dash people's hopes about Trump, because he has done so many good things, which I'm aware of, okay? I'm totally in support of all the good things. But so far, even though he got a memo immediately after his inauguration from my former colleague Ramola Damaraj about targeting, you know, he has brought out an executive order against human trafficking and all that. But so far, the targeting has just exploded in the US, and it continues in Europe. So I am, you know, what I'm basically saying is that whatever Trump does, whoever Trump is, he can't, even if he were, you know, totally for this, he couldn't do it alone. So I want to encourage everybody to start litigating, everybody to start filing court charges and identify the criminals themselves, because only if you identify them do you really trust that assessment, right? This is what I'm saying to the victims. Now, this is just a heads up, okay? Let me just share my screen, and everybody keep in mind that I'm not trying to dash hopes about Trump. I want people to be awake and vigilant and kind of self-actioning, okay? Now, this is a video by the Underground Resistance Network. It's called, "Did Trump Say I'm a Mason?" His own words. Now, what this is about is there is a meeting that Trump has, and I'm just going to show this this clip. So the narrator explains what is being, I think that I got it right.
It is on CNN. That just saying, they are run by the CIA. It says right there in their title in cursive, CIA.
Yeah, exactly. Here you mean CIA. Yes, exactly. That is the CIA. Well spotted. Now, in this video, so at some point he plays the clip. Okay, so these people are invited to the White House. There's a little you know, group, and then maybe I can play it.
We're just listening for the first time. We'll get back.
Okay, so listen.
You know, the one thing I didn't understand about Belinda, I thought they were married for 5 or 6 years. I had to look something up. Should you say how many years you've been married? Sure, 5. We've got 38. 38. But you know, under the blood. That's amazing.
So that was, you really have to listen to the
I had a tough time hearing it, but
so
yeah.
basically I want to flag the sentences to watch out for. So he says, you know, it's Trump says, so how long have you been married? So she says, you know, 38, and then he says 33 under the blood, and then makes a signature a gesture with his left hand. Okay, 33 under the blood. What kind of fucking sentence is that in a normal conversation? Unless you're Mason, which is under the blood, it means the blood brotherhood of Masonry. Okay, so 33 years. And then Trump immediately says, I'm a Mason, so I would have known that. And that is the sentence. And you have to really watch this video and play it back several times to hear Trump say, oh, I'm a Mason, I would have known that. Now this, you know, if people say the audio recording is too wishy-washy, just watch the inauguration of Justice Kavanaugh. When Trump shakes hands with Kavanaugh, they both do the Masonic, like, little knuckle massage, you know, that they love to do, these boys. So, and keep remembering, you know,
there's different ones, and I actually I told you how I started looking into Masonry, and I went to the local lodge. Well, actually one of the parts I didn't tell you is one of the guys, when I got introduced to him, he thought I was already a Mason, and he went ahead and slapped that secret handshake on me, and he did, and I went, whoa, they do have these handshakes. And all the guys standing, he was an older guy, I think he might have not realized, you know, not thought about it too quick, and all the guys were just looked at him like, no, he's not one. So I do know there are handshakes. I know there's a few different ones and stuff like that. So, but I gotta check this out. I gotta see more about the Trump thing. I don't want to believe it yet.
Well, what you really have to remember, and this is undeniable, is that Trump is a multi-billionaire. Okay, now what you need to know about the cartel is you ain't becoming a multi-billionaire or staying one unless you're in the cartel, right? So everything fits. There's also a family portrait. Actually, this is very important because later on we'll talk about signaling. If you Google family portrait of Trump, then this is actually more important than people realize. And I'm just doing all this not to be arsy and not to dash people's hopes about Trump. I'm making a very, very important point here that, you know, you have to be all vigilant and know who you're dealing with, who is your president. So this is the family portrait of Trump. I hope you guys can see it here. Okay, so let me open it in a new tab. So what is so bizarre on this this family portrait has a lot of cartel signaling. Now, the most prominent thing, they usually put the most important stuff on the right-hand side because most people are right-handed and therefore will look to the right side first. So if you just split this image into the right, you'll see Trump's son, and he is riding a lion. Now, and also you can see the double pillars, right? So here he is in front of the double pillars and riding a lion. Now, what you need to understand is that the lion has a very important meaning. The lion and the unicorn have an important meaning in the cartel, and the lion represents finance. It's the lion of finance. So what this image says, if you're an insider, is, you know, this is a little Masonic family, Trump's head behind the two pillars. Okay, he's a Mason. He is going to be a Mason. He already has the double pillars behind his head. He is a multi-billionaire, and his son is already riding the lion of finance and has little limousines at his feet. Okay, no questions. And then
So
there's
there's a guy that was talking about a book. Actually, I have to interrupt you on this part. There's a guy that was talking about a book. I think it's on this show called Edge of Wonder, and they were talking about this book that was written 100 years ago. And the guy talked about how there would be, the book was called The Last President, and how a man named Trump would become president. His vice president would be named Pence, and his son Barron would do something. There were all of these similarities with Donald Trump and his family. And the person in 1902, I believe it was something like that, named all of these people. And they're reading through this story, and I thought, wow, it's almost like they knew the future or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea if it means anything, but it was really, really, really interesting. And
when was this published?
It was on a YouTube show. These two guys, it's called The Edge of Wonder, and they talk about MKUltra. They talk about COINTELPRO. They talk about satanic ritual abuse. They talk about all of it. Actually, you would enjoy their show, I think. They've talked about a lot of different stuff. They might like you on their show, actually. You would be great on their show on Edge of Wonder. But yeah, that yeah, they talk about all that stuff there. So, but that's,
you know, I mean, for if the listeners to my channel, they are bored because I keep going on about this like every single time. Now your viewers probably think, who the hell is this crazy lady talking about lions and all this? You know,
most
what
of them know who you are. I think I know who you are. Some of the Trump people right now are probably going, "Oh, what's this lady talking about?" But you know, uncomfortable truths. I don't know. But what you're saying could be very, you know, possible, and people need to check out everything. You know, don't ever just take any information, no matter how high your hopes are. Just think for yourself. I think that's why we're targeted, because we just do that all the time. You don't just go along with the tribe. You go, wait, things are changing here. This looks different. I was on board here, and I'm not saying I'm off board. I'm still having hope that for Trump's. Maybe there are some good Masons. There's like the good guys and the bad guys somewhere in there, and they're fighting in between. Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of signs that are making me nervous going through all this information. The more I learn.
Well, you know, if you're a military guy, then if you're ever in a situation where you're nervous because you don't have situational awareness, right? You don't know what exactly the situation is and who the players are and what their goals are. Well, this means that we're really missing a lot of intelligence. So the public is missing an awful lot of intelligence. All right. So you can't make any military decision because you don't know what the fuck is going on. You know, when this is reached in a military situation, I don't think it's a good military strategy to then have some anonymous account say to you, just trust the plan. Because, you know, I mean, what sort of military strategy is that? So what I'm trying
the only reason I can think of for that is these people have classified information, Q level information, which I think, I cannot confirm nor deny if I've ever seen that level. I think that the only way for them to disseminate some of this information to the public that is classified is in question form and kind of in code. And they're like, we have to get this information, because there was some information out that they've put out that basically called some events that happened here in the United States. I'm on the news, not the news that lies to us, going through our news where we get our real information and watching these things happen. Like there was these bombs that went off the next day in Texas. I'm pretty sure Q called that. The next day, they knew a lot of different things. So I don't want to completely, you know, discredit them or anything. There's good information coming out of there, but it still could be fishing us along too. To make
Yeah. Now, the one question I have, and by the way, I don't want people to just lose heart or just, you know, say, okay, these are evil people. What I really, really want is all these people to start thinking themselves. Because one of the things I would say is that when I look at the facts, the actual evidence I have, targeting has exploded in its brutality just the past year. Now, this is not encouraging at all. If really high-level people have this under control, this is not, you know, the California mass extermination with satellite-based weapons is not what military under control looks like. So these people, I think, if anything, if they're good guys, they need a lot of help from the American people. Now, my question also, now that we talked about Q clearances, is if your national, and every country has that, okay? So if these Q clearances and these clearances and classifications lead to a situation where you've got pretty much 345 million people utterly clueless if they're going to be mass exterminated by their own people or not, I would say that Q clearances and classification are not in the national security interests, right? It's pretty obvious because none of you seem to have a clue what's going on. And I have to ask the questions from Europe. Now, what this means is that classification automatically leads to a situation where the entire nation is at the mercy of a very small group that is most likely foreign controlled, because all the big pools of money historically, before even America was discovered, were in foreign countries.
That's one of my biggest issues. Is the higher they classify it, the more they can get away with it, the more money they can hide. You know, we're supposedly missing $23 trillion here from our Federal Reserve that hardworking taxpayers have paid into. And, you know, say they're off by half. We're still missing $10 trillion. You know, it's ridiculous. So where'd that go?
Yeah, so now I think the number I heard was 43 trillion by now from Catherine Austin.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, wow. And also importantly, she made the very important point. Once this wad of cash or money is missing, this cartel that, you know, leached it off, it can if this money is never returned, it can live into perpetuity of the interest on that pot of cash alone. So it can basically, it's like the parasite can detach from the host and have its own standalone existence that is much bigger than the US government and stay the biggest player with this amount of cash, okay? So that is a really serious situation. So this is the reality. And then when the other thing I want to say about Q is the question method is the Socratic method. Now, the Socratic method is very good if you want people to start learning by themselves, okay? So this seems to be the chosen method to get the US American people, it seems for the very first time, to start thinking for themselves. So I would make an educated guess that whoever devised the Q program has training in philosophy, because this choice does not come natural to systems analysts, computer programmers, military personnel, and other people. So somebody who had some, was touched by philosophy, it's the Socratic method, okay? But the problem with the Socratic method is that it's very slow, which is why the military is not using the Socratic method. Okay?
Well, actually, I talk about that a lot. The military can react to situations very fast. The jets on the base that I worked at, it was a 3-hour drive to the coast, right? They could get out of bed into that jet into the coast in like 7 or 8 minutes. But any kind of change took forever. It was like the ocean changing temperature throughout the year, to switch out some jets at our base. Not that that's an easy thing to do, but it took 10 years of politics and arguing, and I think some really crazy stuff that went down. It might make a good movie. A jet crashed, and right in the middle of all of it, and yeah. So, damn it! I am having a tough day. You know what? Maybe we talked so long yesterday that I just am trying to keep up with how smart you are. It just wore my brain out like a long drive or something. But I'm hitting the wall a lot today as I start talking about some of these.
No,
topics.
you know what? I think you're getting the neurotechnology equivalent of the blue screen I just got on the computer. I think this is it. Because we talked about yesterday about all the different implants that you might have, and that is a telltale sign. I mean, I can tell from when you're speaking that you're very eloquent and you have a very, systematic way of thinking. When you suddenly lose the thread, this is not natural. This is externally induced.
Yeah, right when I'm, I start to get, when I start to get on a roll, I start to get like, oh, hey, here I go. And I start to get that kind of like good feeling of, all right, hey, I'm getting this out long enough. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm driving a bus into a brick wall, and it like, where did it go? I need, on the Joe Rogan show, he's got Jamie, I was talking about, like, while we're having a conversation, I need somebody over here that could just kind of pay attention to what I'm saying. And then when I lose track, they go, all right, talking about, fill in the blank, whatever. And then, so we'll work on that. We'll work on that down the road. Until then, I guess everybody just has to deal with it, deal with that kind of stuff. So.
But what I wanted to do is I wanted to explain my weirdness to your viewers, and then get back to your court case, because yes. When I talked about the line of finance, okay, so what I want to explain is that all of this, when I talk about hidden symbology, and oh my God, that's so weird. She's like talking about stuffed lions, and she's scared of stuffed lions. Woo! Now, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that there has been a global international crime cartel with us for thousands of years, and they developed their own secret gangster talk.
Absolutely.
So this is very high level. It's almost like a diplomatic language, but it's like a coded language using symbols and words that appear naturally to have a second meaning. And I can prove that the lion and the unicorn have a very special meaning, because I can show, for example, the crest of the United Kingdom. So most people are aware that the United States might, be still controlled from the United Kingdom. So the crest of the United Kingdom has a lot of symbology that is still relevant. And the first thing that strikes you on this is, of course, you have the royal crest in the middle, which is, by the way, the only part that refers to the royal family. And the rest, all the other funky stuff, has nothing to do with them. And what you see on the left immediately is the lion doing the satanic tongue, and you have the unicorn with the hooves of a goat, tail like flames, doing the satanic tongue.
That's where Gene Simmons got that, huh? Okay.
Absolutely. So you have lions, 2 lions, and this unicorn, okay? But the lion seems to be on top, right? The little lion on top of everything on the crown. And in this image, you can see 3 crowns. And even the unicorn is chained down to the floor with a crown.
Ooh, chained. Heard
Yeah.
this term, chained. Freemasonries, yeah, they've chained. Wow.
Exactly. Now, what I'm going to just throw out there is, as far as I can make out, this is the line of finance representing the financial power. And this is the unicorn, and this represents Vatican Intel. It's an intelligence. And why they picked the unicorn, I really don't know. I could make a really lewd joke about this and about how, the leadership of Intel has traditionally been gay. But, anyway, this is how
Maybe
it
because
is.
they don't exist. They hide so well they don't exist or something like that. But yeah, it could be any. But there's a lot of that wrapped up in there too. Who knows? It's
Exactly. So, this is what I'm talking about. But the other thing that people maybe remember, do you remember these door knockers? You have the face of a lion holding a ring in its mouth, and then you can use it to knock on doors. These were Victorian doorknobs and door knockers. I sold
them in my antique shop. Absolutely. Yep. I've seen, definitely sold them on eBay.
Now, what this is a cartel signaling. So the houses that have those on, I mean, come on, like the Lion of Finance holding a ring, like a pedo ring, satanic ring. It's holding a ring for, that much certain. No, that would be a family that's a cartel inside. And these typically people associate the Lion door knocker with a very rich neighborhood. And these people got rich because they were the crime cartel people. So, you knock the door of somebody and it literally, they projected in your face, ta-da, we got rich off you.
That's what I've noticed with all of my experiences. And what I've read, what I've researched is they have to let you know that they're doing these things to you. They have to signal to you somehow, whether it's in the form of a riddle or symbols or signs or giving you a double entendre, telling you one thing that means two different things, and then they just told you what they did to you. And this has happened to me over and over in my life. They will sensitize you with this. They will gaslight you. They will do all kinds of different stuff. So, and also what you were saying about the symbolism, I started noticing all of this. It was being presented to me. When I say being presented to me, they'd have some big play and be like, hey, check out the symbols. They start sitting stuff around your house. You leave your house, you get back, and this movie called The Craft that I've never seen before in my life just happens to be sitting in my entryway, unfolded and right there. And then all these triangles everywhere and stuff, and people are insinuating different things. And I start going, they're trying to tell me something. So I start researching it. And that is exactly right how they communicate. They'll talk right in front of your face and use double entendres. I had a guy tell me that was one of the main perps in this, that he was going to keep me on a treadmill. They literally had me. This is part of the symbolic stuff that they do to let you know they're going to derail you somehow. He literally, I thought this guy was my friend. He literally called me up and said, hey, can you bring your truck over? We have we need to go pick up a treadmill for a dog. These people always refer to us as animals because it makes it easier for them to attack us. It's the exact same thing the Nazis did. They refer to everybody as animals, so it makes it easier to exterminate them all. So I go over there. Yeah, I'm the good friend. Yeah, I'll go help pick up the dog and put him on the treadmill and get him in the backyard, put the dog on the treadmill. And he's standing there going, look at him. He's just going to be running on a thing going nowhere. He's going to be worn out. He doesn't even know he's on a treadmill. He thinks he's on a run. And he was looking at me like he was telling me this, So that's one of the ways that these sick people operate. And they think, well, I just told him what we're going to do. And now guess what? I've been on a treadmill for a long time trying to succeed in business, trying to get promoted in, in the military, all these different things that I tried to do. I've been on the treadmill. So just to kind of put that in normal, everyday dude from California terms, how they do this stuff, that's
really interesting because, I mean, the dogs, I use the symbology, all the animals have a second meaning, and sometimes, household items and these things. But this is very important. And what you also said is that the book that they place, by the way, this is for all those people who are watching and preparing their court cases, this really is the typical Zersetzungs method of the East German Stasi. When they came in and, they did something that you can't go to the police for. You can't say, somebody came in and put a book on my table, because people would say, which
exactly. Somebody came in and put a shoelace in my dryer that said Valor the day after I watched Stolen Valor videos, or put hot sauce in my underwear, all this ridiculous shit that they do. If you go to the police anywhere, it sets it up, the kids play t-ball. It's like putting it right on the tee, and it just gives these cops a chance to hit it out of the park and call you crazy because of the ridiculous nonsense that they've done to you. Really, somebody had the that wanted to take the time to go into your house and put hot sauce in your underwear, huh, weirdo? Why are you telling me this? And so that's exactly what they do. Yeah.
Exactly. And now the real question is how to turn it around on them. And the key how to turn this around in court cases is to refer to it by its official name, which is the Zersetzungsprogramm and COINTELPRO that the FBI did. Open brackets, how come that two countries supposedly not connected to each other, the East German Stasi was under the control of the Russians, right? The Russia, after the Second World War, and the FBI simultaneously did the same type of shit. Historically, simultaneously. I mean, doesn't that kind of imply that there was a connection?
They picked up the standard operating procedure and went, well, it worked for them, guys. Operation Paperclip, put it into effect. Let's run it here in the United States covertly. And yeah, that's exactly what's going on here with technology, with satellites and cell phones and the internet and hackers and all of that they didn't have. Well, I don't know. Maybe they had some of that back then. We don't have. It hasn't been unredacted yet out of the classified documents. But really, we're dealing with the exact same thing. If anyone studies this enough and they watch what happened in World War II and they listen to statements from people like Dr. Horton, myself, and the other hundreds of thousands of people out there explaining this, and you can't put that together. Here's your sign. There's some comedian here in the United States that, for stupid people, he goes, here's your sign. He says all the stupid people should wear stuff. If you can't figure that out, here's your sign. But please, if you have to wear a sign, learn enough to take it off. Anyway, I'm sure.
No, but the way to really turn it around is to use the official terminology. And then the real twist in all this is that as soon as a victim reports these odd housebreaking incidents with gaslighting, it immediately implies that they are the victim of intelligence agencies or intel trained people, because only intelligence agencies have ever used this method.
Okay.
It means that the people you have to sue in court for this to stop are the intelligence agencies or their contractors, because it's not the professional association of accountants, because accountants have never done housebreaking with gaslighting ever, but every single intel agency on the planet has done this. So the method implies the perpetrators, So
Yes.
the way to really turn this around, if for example, if there are victims listening and wondering, oh yes, I had housebreaking, just like this described, and I just can't go to the police and I don't know what to do. What you need to do is you have to file an injunction against the intelligence agencies for COINTELPRO terrorism. Okay, your local intelligence agency has to be, charged in court for this. And what you can do is you can then download all the other affidavits that I've uploaded, where people state under oath that they had exactly these types of housebreaking for just harassment purposes. And then they had all the other things that also imply the intelligence agencies. For example, assaults with directed energy weapons and this sort of stuff, or housebreaking with covert implanting and so on. Again, your local a shoe repair shop cannot do that. It has to be the intelligence agencies, So this is really a way to turn it around. But if we go back to your court case, you have all this housebreaking COINTELPRO style, which implies that you're already the victim of the intelligence agencies. Then you have a group of people by magic file, within 24 hours, a restraining order against you just for sending tweets, warning them that you're on there, you're investigating them as an investigative reporter, right? And then you have this entrapment operation. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize is if you add together the sequence of how the entrapment operation went down, and this is what your entire court case is about, they charged you at the end with aggravated assault, and you have never left your car, and the entire question is about if in your car you pointed or brandished your weapon to another person who was a passenger in a car next to you. Is that right?
Correct.
And did you have a weapon with you or
Yes,
near you at the time?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a standard thing for everybody here in Arizona. I would say 90% of the people here in Arizona carry a firearm. It's part of the reason I moved here, actually. California, it was almost impossible to own a firearm. And I spent 15 years in the Air Force, and I'm not a gun expert, but I am qualified above average with firearms. So I have a ribbon on my uniform for small arms expert. When I was in the Air Force, I qualified. There's some different things you have to do, and I know how to properly carry firearms. So in the state of Arizona, it's constitutional carry. There's no permit that you have to have. You can, by the Constitution, conceal a firearm, and pretty much everybody does here. So that's part of the reason I came here. Wow, the ringing in my ear. Oh my gosh, sorry. That is the worst one I ever got.
No, that's okay. What you should check, if people get ringing in that...
Oh, sorry. I was on a roll. I don't want him to interrupt me. But that's part of the reason I moved here. But then it turned out that I ended up in an area where the people aren't okay with the constitutional carry, and they will gang stalk, and they will target a person if they want to show that that person is a criminal, because they don't want them to have guns. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because they want to push their opinion on the Second Amendment other than voting on it. They want to find other way to circumvent our laws and use this targeting. And that's exactly what they did to me. I was pretty outspoken about that, you know. And I talk about how in the United States here, in areas like this in Arizona, the gun crimes are very far and few between. There's hardly any gun crimes here. In Chicago, where the gun laws are the most strict, I was there myself. I've seen this. This isn't just the articles I've read. I was there during one weekend where 104 people were shot over that weekend. Many of them died. It was over 4th of July weekend. I was there delivering something from my eBay store. It was getting shipped to Korea, actually. It was an interesting story. But I drove through the west side of Chicago, the south side of Chicago. It looked like zombies. They were coming up, wiping dirty squeegees on my car, spitting on the windshield like that was going to help, you know, clean it off. It was literally the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. The other side of Chicago was beautiful. I had a great time. So I'm not crapping on Chicago, but that side of it, you know, man, there was a lot of 104 people were shot that weekend that I was there. So that's just, I don't want to make this whole thing about gun stuff, but that's a part of the reason I ended up in this situation. So, but yeah, I did. I had my firearms with me, and the Avondale Police Department is actually in possession of one of them.
Now, the question is, when you mentioned the housebreaking, the COINTELPRO housebreaking, did that start before you became outspoken about guns, or did it start after?
Oh, I've been outspoken about that probably since like 2004, 2005. I saw that from my experience that it was happening. They were trying to take them away, and I did look at history in World War II and what happened when they took all the firearms away from the people. They went in and did what they did, and I realized, hey, well, not then. I didn't realize we're going through this now, but I realized, hey, we could go there if they take away all the firearms. So that's one of the things that I would just be vocal about. And I was not highly educated on a lot of these situations. I just say, you know, that doesn't seem right. Send, put it out there. Hope all the smart people investigate that and look into it. And it turns out a lot of the intel agencies were watching it and didn't like a lot of the stuff, you know, because I put in 9/11 in there, and I was a firefighter during 9/11. Met over 300 of the firefighters that survived 9/11, and you know, spent time with some of those guys, heard some stories, lot of things. You know, I talked about chemtrails when nobody was talking about chemtrails. I've been looking up in the sky since I was a little kid. They weren't around when I was a little kid. I lived near Edwards Air Force Base. You know, a lot of aviation history. I've watched this whole thing happen. You know, so that's kind of avenue I started going down then. But yeah, I've been vocal about it ever since, as long as I've been on social media. You know.
And when at what point did the housebreaking start, and this kind of harassment and the gang stalking, relative to when you became outspoken?
The first that I noticed when the house break-ins started was in Norman, Oklahoma. And there was, every time we would leave our house, my wife and I, we had an art studio, and we were photographers together. We did the eBay thing. We're running around all over the time. And we'd leave our house, and the same man would be walking up to our house every single time for months. He just happened to be going on a walk at the exact same time we're leaving the house. And I'm thinking, that's so odd. And then things started getting moved around there.
What year was that? What year was that?
Let's see, I've been here in Arizona for about 4 years now, and I was in Norman for 2 years. So 4 years ago for 2 years. And right when I got there, stuff was weird. So it might have been happening. I was getting stuff that was happening at my house in California, like it stabbed the motorcycle seat on my motorcycle, ruined that, stabbed my tires, stuff would be damaged at the house. But when I really noticed the break-ins was in Norman, Oklahoma. When I moved there, I wanted to get out of California. I was being gang stalked in California. I didn't know it. I thought, God, everybody's here is just a jerk. You know, there's good people still in California. I was just surrounded by all these gang stalkers. So I thought, I got to get out of here. This is ridiculous. So I go to Oklahoma, move to Norman. And the weirdness intensified. I had a security system. I got broke into my truck one night that was dressed just like me. I wear these cabbie hats a lot. Not this, but the cabbie hats, you know what they look like. And Levi's and like a t-shirt and some Vans. So a guy dressed exactly like me broke into my truck, grabbed something that I had sold on eBay, ripped it open, and then scattered the photos out throughout the lawns of my neighbors. And then I got it on video and I posted it on Facebook because I don't just go, whoa, well, that was odd. I posted on Facebook and said, actually, I was being kind of cocky. I said, go ahead and try that again, asshole. And guess what happened the next night? My wife's trunk got popped open and everything got stolen out of her car. And we had to go to the police department and retrieve it. So that was happening. This guy was showing up over and over and over. And no matter what time of the day we left, he'd be showing up. When we would be coming home, he'd be leaving. We'd be gone for 30 minutes. The same scenario. The next day, we'd be gone for 6 hours. Same scenario. Same guy over and over. So, and then stuff. My ex-wife was a type 1 diabetic. So the story goes, I mean, it would be hard for people to believe that somebody could fake that. But hey, the things these people do are ridiculous. So she was a type 1 diabetic. She had a pump. And we got home and her pump was hidden. It was gone. It was missing. It's a $6,000 pump she needed to live. We found it when we were moving in a shoe in the closet, you know, stuff like that. Stuff had been moved all over, eBay items missing. And yeah, that was going on in Norman, Oklahoma. And I was advocating for some things there in Norman. I was, cannabis is illegal. I've seen kids have grand mal seizures and I'm an advocate for that. So I tried to help with that. Actually, all the signatures that were signed for to get that legalized, I printed off at my art studio. You know, I put a lot of work into that. I spent some time with that, and at least just to get it medical, you know, for people, veterans, people with PTSD, people that are hooked on opiates, that they can use that to get off. And I'll just stop there. That's a whole nother talk show. But you know, during that, I got questioned by the police. They were asking me my phone number. They were asking me all these different questions. They sent pretty girls to me to ask me questions like, hey, you're doing good with this. Would you ever be a politician? And I'm like, yeah, I'd probably do something like that. And I go, oh, okay, thanks. And then I'm gone. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was a conversation that she was just trying to start. And she just tried to get some information from me. And, you know, they want to know what my future is going to be, what the decisions I'm going to make. But yeah, that hasn't stopped since then. You know, I got home, and there's so many instances that I'll just think of one real quick. I got home from a cruise. We went on a cruise on New Year's. We got home super tired. 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody's out in my front yard pounding on my window. Bam, 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 like they're trying to break the window. I'm surprised it didn't break. Still had my guns at that time. When somebody here, you know, when that happens, I grab my gun, I go up to the front, I'm looking around, I don't turn the lights on. I want to make sure if somebody breaks through my window and they're trying to rob my home, that I can protect myself and my family. So that's what I do. And that kind of thing would happen over and over because they knew, well, through repetition, that if they kept doing that my cortisol levels would be raised at all times. I'd be completely stressed. You understand what I'm talking about with cortisol. The human body is not made to function that way. When your cortisol levels are raised every single day, you age faster. You can't make proper decisions. You can't function correctly. You can't get the right sleep. And that's why my eyes look like this. You know, half the reason, I mean, I can see a little bit better magnifying, but yeah, I've got these rings under my eyes they're not rings, whatever you could, dark spots, whatever you want to call them, from that. So, all right, there's me going off on another tangent. Thanks for listening.
No, this is super important. I'm guessing I'm missing again. Sorry, I think there's an echo, some feedback. Okay, what I wanted to say is, no, these are all leads for an investigation. They are forensic details that are incredibly important because they identify the people who are doing this. So everything that you have mentioned, funnily enough, there is an entry for every single thing on the affidavit template. So for example, you mentioned these timed encounters. You said that your wife and you would leave the house and this neighbor would appear. And if you just open the affidavit template and people search for timed, right, the first thing that should come up, sorry, here, it's point 323 is timed or staged events, coincidences, because they're typical for the intelligence agencies. This is in the section intrusive surveillance, right? And I think there's something, a point above that, surveillance activity starts when you leave the home. So as soon as you leave the home, it means that as soon as you step outside, they have gang stalkers on the ready. What this implies is that there's indoor surveillance. If it were only outdoor surveillance and your private space would not be under surveillance, there would be no way for them to know when you're going to open your front door. But every single person reports, or the vast majority of them report, that these gang stalkers will be ready and stationed or would be just passing by.
Yeah, second you go out your front door, every time. And then, well, not every single time, but I mean, way too much to be.
Exactly. And then that neighbors are involved. So section in the neighbors section, 4.2, the second one is odd behavior or timed meetings with neighbors, right? This is so standard. I hear it in almost every single case. Now, the other thing I wanted to
interrupt you real quick. Keep going through this. I'm going to take a quick break while you're going over this.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. Okay, sure. Because what I wanted to show your viewers also, and my viewers, is that when Michael mentioned that a book was placed and it was called The Craft, okay, as in, for example, the witchcraft or the craft of masonry, I wanted to show you a document, which is a leaked document. This was leaked by Edward Snowden. I would like to go to full screen here. So this is a GCHQ document for the American viewers. GCHQ is the, I personally call it the government cocksucking headquarters, but it's the government communication headquarters in the UK in Cheltenham. And this is the English HQ, the equivalent of NSA for British Intel, okay? These people, as far as I can make out, are some of the biggest tossers on the planet. And what you can see here is an internal presentation leaked by Edward Snowden. It has been classified secret, and it's USA, so to USA, and this is Five Eyes, okay? So FVEY is Five Eyes, and this is the intel agencies of the US, of Canada, of Britain, of Australia and New Zealand. These 5 countries form the Five Eyes intelligence backbone, which is, kind of the governmental backbone architecture of the Jesuit global intel network. This is, I think, the best way I can put it. But this internal presentation, apart from being a piss poor PowerPoint presentation, also reveals their obsession with calling themselves wizards and witches and magicians and shit like that. So
all time, yep. I'm back.
so I'm just going to flash through. It's just the J-Trig group and, this really shitty presentation. But at some point here, for example, right, all their different fields, influence, psychology, magic. And this word magic will keep cropping up. And the question is, what the hell does it have to do in a, pseudoscientific presentation for an intelligence agency? Okay, so here they say they want to build cyber magicians. So they are so obsessed with these magicians. Here, for example, they call it magic techniques and experiment. Okay, all their different
when some people hear magic, they think, oh, they're casting some spell, but what they're really doing is using strategy and manipulation and tactics and power and leverage to get the final outcome that they want, no matter what, no matter who it hurts, no matter who it affects, and that's what they call magic.
Exactly. Deception.
Yeah, when they try to say, oh, they're talking about magic tricks now, rabbit out of a hat. No, it's exactly what I just explained. Way more than that. This chart, I'm sure explains it.
Yeah, my God, this guy needs smaller font and more colors, I think. But anyway, so the deception is really the name of the game. So all this is about deception. Oh God, look at this. Anyway, and then here, for example, this is the deception of the eye, right? It looks like a tank, but it's just a blown up balloon. Again, a magician, a card trick showing the all-seeing eye. I mean, a slide like that in an intel agency is, signaling in itself. And here, these magicians who these people are pointing to and, you know, revering. So you also have Houdini doing the hidden hand signal. So he was a Freemason here, right there. Okay, here you've got the all-seeing eye, one eye, you know, but this is more obvious. So you've got the one eye cartel signaling here, the Masonic hidden hand there. So in other words, these people are, the GCHQ in their presentation are pointing to Masonic experts in deception, okay? And this is what the magicians have to do with military intelligence. It's all just deception, guys. It's one big, you know, deception show. Mimicking, you know, decoy, dazzling, masking, blah, blah, blah. And this is where this entire reference to magic comes from. So again, deceptive images, you know, how to deceive people. And when you go through the presentation, I'm just going to flash it up so that people have it for as a reference, should they not be able to find it again. You can always go back and pause the video and see every single slide. But all this is what GCHQ are doing. They are working for a global crime cartel, and they are getting experts in how to deceive the population. For example, this image, most people would say, oh, this is potentially a UFO, but what I see is a seagull, a busy, determined-looking seagull flying off and being, you know,
with a slow shutter speed, exactly, by the ocean.
Exactly. So this is it. Okay, here's the ocean again, right? But in this presentation, this is a real presentation. The entire purpose is how to figure out how these people, who, by the way, have the crown, the logo of the crown corporation, right here in their logo, they are figuring out how they can deceive the masses. This is not a government institution charged with protecting the British people. This is a criminal organization owned by the Crown Corporation. Here you have the all-seeing eye symbol, right? Conjuring with information to deceive. And the presentation is by the head of human science, right? Head of human science, J-Trick of GCHQ. I mean, that presentation says it all, right? So when you're dealing with these people, you are dealing with people who try to bullshit you. So going back to your court case, the entire sequence, I'm not sure if my viewers have understood so far, at what point, so you were at the store, exactly the same store where previously you had been gang-stalked and harassed by a police officer.
Correct. Well, and multiple other times also, but yes, that was the particular place that I was at where I filmed the interaction with the police officer, and then that's where this other thing happened also.
So then weeks later, you're there, you've got one guy who's harassing you in the store, and then you go out and climb into your car and he starts following you home. Is that what happened?
No, I actually, when I left the parking lot, so, you know, well, I don't know if they do this to you, but every time I leave a parking lot, they will back out and act like they're going to back into me, or they'll back out and not let me go. And I just have to stop, let them go, stop for the next one, stop for the next one. And by the fifth one, you're just like, there's no way this is possible. So I knew that these people were part of a group. I've seen it, you know, I can identify it, like being in the military. You can see somebody that's been in the military from a mile away, usually by the way they walk or the demeanor. I could tell that these people were one of these groups. They're all driving white cars. They're doing the back end thing to me. So the last truck, he backed out and just about hit me. And I pulled up behind him and I got his license plate. And then I pulled out alongside of him, almost not making a U-turn, but making a left and then another left onto the main street. I got next to him and I'm reading out aloud what it says on the side of his truck, because I'm documenting all this on video. When I go home, I can transpose it, give it to a private investigator, whatever. That's in the mode that I'm in. So I'm reading out loud the side of his truck, and he rolls down his window and, you know, he starts this interaction with me. We start talking back and forth, and I tell him I'm filming gang stalkers, and he's like, "What's a gang stopper?" He knows exactly what this is. This guy's a former Marine, a former police officer. These guys know what this is. He's involved in it. So he says it wrong intentionally to irritate me, you know. And I said, "It's somebody you may be, you know." "Oh, somebody I may be. Oh yeah, I've heard of that." All of a sudden he doesn't know what it is. And then all of a sudden, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that. What is it? What is it?" And I said, research it. And I said, "Yeah, you know, I was irritated. I even sounded kind of irritating when I was talking to the guy out the window, but he was more irritating." I started pulling off, and you can say whatever you want, right? I'm just on your show here, right? I'm just saying what this guy said. I'm repeating what he said. As I'm pulling away, because I just got done saying something about gang stalkers, and he said, "Oh, like faggot asses like yourself." And that right there, that just I couldn't process what he just said first. I was like, "Wait, who says that?" You know. But it made me angry because that was about the 20th time in that within the month that somebody had called me a faggot or and I'm so sorry that I'm using these words, people, but I'm just repeating what was said to me. I don't use these words.
That's okay. On my channel, we have the rule that you're entitled to use the full Oxford English Dictionary. It's part of free speech, so just continue.
Okay. Yeah, and I like to observe the First Amendment. I just don't want to give anybody a reason to say he said this, he said that. I'm only repeating like for news purposes so people can understand what I went through. Like 20 times that month, somebody had said something very similar. That guy almost ran me over on my bike. I'm riding my bike to FedEx to go deliver a package for the Tracy Morgan show. The true OGs actually needed it overnight for this show and wherever the heck they were. So I'm riding across town. This guy almost runs me over. I've seen this guy before. Rolls down his window. "Get out of the way, nigger!" And I'm like, what the heck? I have my GoPro on. I pull in front of IHOP. There's a restaurant. All these people are standing out front waiting, and I have the GoPro facing them. I said, "Did you people just hear what I just heard?" And they were like nodding their head like, "Oh my God, that was ridiculous." You know, so I go, "Okay, good. I just got that on film. Put that in the document, you know, document it." Geez, where did I start with that, Dr. Horton?
What you were talking about is, you know, you were pulling out of the parking lot and this guy offended you, calling you a faggot. And this was like a long chain. And I'm so pleased you document all this with GoPros and all this. This is like deductive gold, okay? This is gold for the court cases.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm trying so hard to put this all on video and tell the story through to where after I've done enough of it, it's undeniable without the shadow of a doubt at all. If somebody watches from beginning to end, there's absolutely no way that they can say, "Oh, yeah, this guy's going through a normal life," or any of these people, you know. So, but yeah, that's where I was going with that. It had built up over a month. This guy called me that. I got mad. I got back over into the other lane, into the center lane. I sped up next to him. There's another white truck right in front of him. Imagine that. I pull up next to him and I said, "Fuck you, motherfucker." He pulls his gun out the window, got that on film. I made a U-turn, went back to my house. I'm shaking. You know, I haven't been in a gunfight. You know, not everybody in the military, a very, very, very small percentage of people in the military make it into combat. You know, a lot of people work at a computer. They're in administration. They're audio visual. There are all these different jobs you have in, you know, other places. So I hadn't been in this situation where I had somebody pull a gun on me. Well, yeah, when I was younger, somebody shot at us in Fresno, but that was a long time ago, and a whole different situation. So I'm going back home, and I'm just kind of processing what just happened in my head, and I've gone through all this other trauma every single day before this, building up. I'm like, I'm not going to call the police. They've been stalking and harassing me. I call them, they're going to show up and be like, "Ah, you, what's going on?" You know. So I'm driving home, and right as I'm pulling up to my house, this guy pulls up in my rearview mirror like a scary movie, you know. It's exactly like a movie would play out. I'm pulling up to my house and I just see these lights creeping, these ominous lights, you know, and then all hell breaks loose and take off from the guy through the neighborhood. And I end up arrested in jail with this ankle monitor on that I still have on the track. It's kind of redundant. I mean, can't they just tune into one of the chips I've already got in me? You know, so I don't have to have this big cumbersome thing on, but they won't.
Exactly. I mean, I've got you know, people who are young mothers with young children being chipped absolutely to the top. You having been in the U.S. Air Force, even if you were not you know, a combat type soldier, everybody would be chipped. I'm pretty convinced about this now. So you would have tracking chips in you anyway. I think the this sort of ankle tracking is just for humiliation. They want to stamp you as a criminal. So they really want to stamp you as a criminal, as a drug addict. With women, they want to stamp them as prostitutes or drug takers, or people don't take care of their children. And it's a psychological technique, and they want to imprint it. So they want to kind of it's like the scarlet letter thing, you know. They want to really stamp you as something. They want to have you to have a physical reminder of who they want you to be, type of thing. Which again, this psychological manipulation is the hallmark of Intel. So you're not up against the mafia, you're up against Intel, because the psychological refinement is not what the mafia does. Okay, so it's pretty clear that you're a victim of the intelligence agencies. The other thing I would like to point out is, so you're saying you have the entire interaction on film when this guy's calling you a faggot and is brandishing a weapon.
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube. I put it on YouTube. I wasn't even sure if I should do it or not, but I said, I don't know. Who knows how long I'll be around? I'm just going to put this all out there. The audio, the only audio that I got from his interaction with the police officer, reporting the situation, saying in there, out of nowhere, that's why we're trying to get rid of him. He wasn't even asked a question. He just he had to blurt it out. That's why we're trying to get rid of him. Who's he talking about? Who are they trying to get rid of? Why? For what reason? You know. And then they both say, "Oh yeah, I was in the Marine Corps. Oh, me too. Yeah, I was in the best. You know, this and that." And, you know, it's like it's ridiculous. Yeah, but I got the whole thing on video. The audio all uploaded, and I narrated it too to explain it to people that weren't there, so I could walk them through it. So everybody, check that out, please. Go to my YouTube channel, Michael Barden, MICHAELBARDEN.
Actually, can you pull up the link and share your screen and show us the video? Because I want people to go to your YouTube channel and start looking at the evidence, and I want people to quote your case and their court cases as an example of an entrapment operation, because this, guys, is deductive gold. And you know, when I said in the beginning, they want to push you into defensive war. We are not playing defense. That's number one. Playing defense is hard because then you have to, you know, kind of protect yourself on all fronts. So what you really want, if you're in a war, or especially if you're victim, you want to play offense, because then you choose the mode of attack and you're back again in control. So when I listen to all this, it sounds to me almost like you should file a countersuit where you are pressing charges for police officer that isn't either. It sounds like he was on duty driving, you know, or maybe he was off.
No, he's a former police officer. He's not a police officer anymore. He works for this ACT company.
So, okay, so then, you know, you have to find out in terms of the insurance, if he was on a job when he was driving that truck, which was it a recycling truck or something? Or something about
the ACT geobiological engineering.
Biological engineering. I mean, I get alarm clocks ringing in my head about biological engineering.
I'll pull up their website, but it's ACT something like that. They have a lot of land contracts, a lot of construction contracts. They have government contracts.
Government contracts, awesome. So now what I would do is I would go on the offensive. If you've got the video material, I would say, okay, first of all, the court case they are bringing, this is false prosecution. This is an entrapment operation. None of the 11 police officers had their webcam or their what's it called, their covert cam on, or their body cam.
They malfunctioned.
Yeah, I mean, 11 times, you know, I mean, a malfunctioning. It's like, you know, winning the lottery 11 times in a row, okay? I don't think they did that all in the same day.
Actually, it's even bigger odds. So there's possibilities, so if they have their body camera on and they also have a camera in their vehicle, which most people do. I mean, everybody's been on the internet. They've seen all these vehicle cams, dash cams that have been released through FOIA requests, and the body cams. So that's 22 possible cameras that these people had. And not one is being I've asked for them over and over, you know.
So okay, so that is clearly right. That is 100% proof that this is an entrapment operation and to build up to false prosecution. So I would just bat that down. I would literally just file for that and just list all the things that they're doing, you know, and all the odd stuff. And then I would file a counterclaim to actually move into the offensive position and say, okay, what I've just uncovered here is that a former police officer is part of a gang stalking terror network, right, where he's terrorizing people, he's brandishing weapons, he followed a family father home, a small business owner, brandishing his weapon. He's working together with a corrupt criminal group that seemed to have deep captured Arizona police. This is big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And that's where I would start. I mean, this is, and move back into offense.
Conspiracy against rights. Here in the United States, the code is U.S. Code 18, Section 241 and 242, conspiracy against rights. And it's also a violation of multiple parts of our Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, mostly, but also the First Amendment, because they violate your rights, trying to get your word out. They won't take reports, stuff like that. So here's the video you asked for.
Yeah. Can you press the share screen, because I think the way you're broadcasting doesn't end up on my end. What you can do on this Hangouts thing is there's on the left for me there's a little green screen, and if you click on that, that's share screen, and then you're sharing, and then I can see what you're seeing for my viewers as well.
Share screen, share your entire screen, right there.
Yes, perfect. I can see it. Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for helping me with that. This is my first time with the Hangouts thing. I like this though, actually. There's, knock on wood, I should never say this, but we're having less problems than Skype. So as a firefighter, you never say, hey, we haven't got any calls today, because 2 seconds later, the bell goes off and your dinner gets cold. So let me go back to that video. Okay, so this is my website, barden.us. There's got a lot of different videos here. This guy used to work for the Clintons. Did some stuff for them, talked about some of that. Here's Karen Milton Stewart, and we'll just scroll down. Here's my first, this is the first video, and my viewers can't see you right now, so I'm sorry, I'll get right back to that, but they can just see what we're seeing. This is my first video when I was ready to go ahead and tell the world that I'm a targeted individual and start this journey. I'm wearing the same hat. Huh. Oh, this is total, I go off on, I do get sidetracked. People have complained about this hat, and they said, you're not a real targeted individual. You're wearing a red shirt, and you've got a $400 hat on. I found this is a $400 hat if you buy it brand new, but I found it at the swap meet for $1. So I'm wearing less than $10 worth of clothes right now for all the people that say I'm still, you know, doing okay and all that. Here's the video. Here's the video of me talking to the police. This is kind of a long video. But
and how these people use these keywords to pass on to you that they know your personal information.
Can you hear that okay?
Yeah. Actually, now it's interrupted. So the audio is being interrupted. But what I want my viewers to do, I'm going to take the link, if you post it to me, and I'm going to put it in the description below the YouTube video on my end, so that people can go and check out your site and actually listen to the entire video, because I want people, so I taught my viewers how to download YouTube videos, and I want them to stick this as evidence in their court cases and cross-reference your court case, because this is a massive entrapment operation here.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
And then the actual video that was from the day when the entrapment operation took place.
Right here, 1/4/18, 11 officers with no body camera footage. And this is this is from the day that I was arrested. So, and I just sit down and I narrate some of it. I talk through it, and yeah, actually most of it. And then
excellent. So there's also detailed explanations.
So here's what I'm pulling out.
Yeah.
I'm pissed at this guy.
The white vans, white vans also have a meaning in gang stalking, by the way. Red and white vans.
So I'm just reading.
I just did a little research on some gang stalkers. You ever heard of that? Gang stalker? Yeah, go look it up. Why was a gang stalker? Somebody that you might be. Yeah, look up gang stalking. Gang stalking, yeah. Notice this.
So that's, yeah, I mean, it take a while to go through the whole thing, but there's, I mean, the video's there. Take the time.
That's awesome. I mean, you know, sorry to to say this, but actually for us in Europe, I mean, you know, I'm in Europe, okay, so I have seen America from the Hollywood movies, okay, so but when I see these American streets, because every country has its own street design sign and its own car types and so on, and the way they drive, and this is like a Hollywood movie, and what I find really funny is you're both driving really fast, and you've got, you know, two Americans going at each other, you know, while they're driving down the highway.
I think he was trying to get away, and I was just trying to catch up with him. So you hear the motor rev a little bit, you know, and just so I could catch up with him. Actually, that was kind of quiet. My other truck is pretty loud. It's a true American Chevy truck with a loud muffler and all that. You know, I am a pretty American dude. I like our freedom. I like the right to bear arms. I like rock and roll. I like a lot of different things that are just typical American. But the one thing that seems to piss off the rest of the Americans around me is I like to think for myself. Well, I shouldn't say the rest, because a lot of people are thinking for themselves and a lot of people are waking up. But in my experience throughout my life, when I start to think for myself, man, it really pisses a lot of people off. And yeah.
This was great. I mean, you know, when I'm listening to the audio and I'm watching this, to me it looks like a real Hollywood movie. You know, two guys shouting at each other. This guy, a former police officer, brandishing a weapon. Was that also as you were both speeding down that really multi-lane thing?
I don't think we broke the speed limit, actually. The speed limit, it's 45 miles an hour right there, and I don't think we ever passed the speed limit. We got up to the speed limit pretty quick. So you know, as long as you don't break traction, it's not considered exhibition of speed here. So if you want to take off fast in the United States and get to the speed limit, that's perfectly legal. So I don't think we broke any laws there.
No, absolutely not. But by the way, you're still sharing your screen, so my on my end, I just see myself. Yeah, this is really interesting. So you have all the evidence. Oh, by the way, you're still sharing your screen on the Google Hangout. So yes, now you're back. Now you're back,
right,
and the microphone just slipped into the screen. So if you could just lift the microphone, perfect.
There we go. All right.
Fantastic. But this is
that's how other people do it. They think it's cool. They show everybody they have a microphone and all their podcasts in it. So I wasn't sure. All right, but yeah, that's you can see a little bit better there. All right, look official.
You know, this is fantastic because you've got all the evidence and you have these people in the bag. So it seems to me that what they did is they tried to do, and this is, by the way, exactly what they did in the French case of Frederic Laroche. The police in his case, and the intel agency set up this ludicrous thing, you know, there was absolutely nothing. And then they tried to push it into a court case. And then just like, literally like, well, I call it, you know, after Catherine Austin Fitz, the shriekometer. They're just shrieking and, oh my God, these terrible things happened. And then they embroil themselves in ever more ludicrous stories that don't make any freaking sense. When you look at the evidence, it's so daft. I mean, exactly as you said, this guy said, you know, former police officer, and then did he say former Marine? He says gang stoppers. I mean, sorry, what? This is just nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody that has trained to be very vigilant, focused on detail. You know, I think I was very clear when I said that, and that has also been repeated to me quite a bit. And I think what they're saying is, oh, gang stoppers, like insinuating that I'm in some gang or something like that. Like they're stopping me because I'm in some gang, which isn't possible because I have no friend. My friends are you and Karen and these people that I've identified with online. You know, I've got a couple people that, you know, Jason Goodman flew out here from New York. I consider him a friend, but man, it's pretty small. I wouldn't be able to be in a gang. Maybe like the internet, you know, the internet truth fighters gang or something like that, whatever they want to call it. But you know, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
And frankly, when I'm listening, I mean, I'm being sent so much evidence from victims, and I have my own, you know, 2 terabytes of evidence from gang stalking and everything. And after a while, you just cotton on, and you can just see from the body movements, from the micro expressions, you can just make, when you see these people, they are not trained actors. They are like really shit actors, and you can see shit acting. And you know, as soon as this guy said, oh, gang stoppers, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a total perp, you know, it's just obvious.
Well, I mean, and they did so when I went in, they did the same time, they arrive at the same time, they enter at the same time as you, they linger in your general vicinity, and they give you way more attention than you would ever get from anybody else, unless you were on fire, you know, and they'll do weird things that somebody wouldn't normally do that would get your attention, like this guy in particular. And I wish I could get the video from QT. I tried to subpoena the video so I could show the weird stuff they were doing in there. He's standing there holding a bag of chips like a 3-year-old would do, or 4-year-old, whatever, a little kid. And he's sitting there crinkling them like he's checking them, but he's looking right over these chips at me. And of course you're going to notice some weird stuff like that. Who's not going to notice that? So notice that there's another guy that looks like he's former military or a police officer, and I had set my camera up on the ledge so I can just keep filming behind me, because they always show up behind me and sniff or do some kind of cough or some weird thing in a repetitious fashion. I have to add, the guy comes up behind me in my camera. He wants to make sure he gets in the frame. This is on this video we were just showing, and goes like this. Does the little, you know, the head scratch thing, makes sure that he gets into the video, does that, you know, so they're doing this. I go get in line. This guy, Russell Roberts, is standing in front of me. I get behind him. He looks behind me. He gets out of line, stands behind me. He's a tall guy. He's like towering over me. He's in my bubble. He like says, oh, I went to go get an apple and get back in line in his state. Yeah, but what he wanted to do is get out of line, get behind me, and get in my personal space and have me say, hey, what's your deal? Why are you calling me in here?
So
why are you getting in my personal space? Why are you crinkling chips like a weirdo and looking at me weird? You know, like, why are you doing all these odd things that actually should be reported as odd behavior? You know, not me doing a copy up before I go to work, before I get my work day done. So
this is so hilarious. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing about the victims. I'm just laughing about the sheer stupidity of these gangsters.
I laugh all the time now. It's the only part of the reason I'm still here.
Yeah.
Dr. Barden, because I laugh at the ridiculousness of this. And sometimes if you don't laugh through some of this stuff, you're gonna just hate the entire day. So I laugh at some of their stupid stuff now that I understand that I'm mostly safe. You know, like at this point last year, I wasn't sure if I was gonna live. I was not sure. In April, May 2017, I was almost positive somebody was going to kill me, and that's what they want you to think. They're constantly signaling. Now I don't even, well, I say I don't care, but I've lost the fear of that. If they do take me out one of these days, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I'm moving forward. And that would have the Streisand effect. Do you know about the Streisand effect?
No.
Barbara Streisand wanted her wedding to be private. She didn't want anybody to show up. She got all these bodyguards and whatever, you know, security. Somebody heard about it. Word got out. There were helicopters, there was media, there was all kinds of stuff. So, you know, once we've made ourselves so public and we're getting so close to this, if something does happen to us, you know, that's going to have the Streisand effect, and it's going to give people a reason to go, now, wait a minute, maybe this guy was telling the truth. So, hey, if something happens to me, I already swore to protect the Constitution and the country from enemies, foreign and domestic. As you know, when I was in the service, I had to swear. And that oath still exists with me. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And hey, maybe I made it through the military and I didn't get hurt then. That might happen down the road. Whatever. I already signed up for that a long time ago, you know. Big deal. A lot of people have given their life for freedom, don't have the fear anymore. And that's what they want, to have you constantly afraid, constantly in fear, constantly on your heels, telling everybody there's somebody after me. But now we've gotten to the point where, hey, yeah, there is somebody after me. Here's the proof. Here are the documents. Here are the experts. Here's, you know, the law of large numbers and how it's impossible. I don't know if I said that right. How it's impossible to have this many coincidences one time. You know.
What's really that's right. I get it. What's important is that you go through, and I would just maybe use your court case. This is what I would do. If these people come with the court case, I would use the court case to really get their ass. You know, to just use this the disclosure or what's it called, the discovery, to get all the information and keep stomping your feet. And it's not a real court case unless they give you all the evidence that you want to place your case on. Correct. So I would use this to get all these screenshots and mug shots of every single perp who was involved. And then you say, I want to get, you know, we need to look at the communications patterns, right, of these people, because they seem to be an organized stalking. These are terror networks, right? There has to be financial trails, all these people, but all the people you have video footage for, because you say this last entrapment operation is the last part of a multi-year campaign against you.
But here's how they stop that, though. For me to get all that, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm so terrible at that. But the way that they're stopping me from that is, and I think you might know this too, is these national security letters. So they make these guys part of like what's called InfraGard here, or Citizen Corps, or the FBI secret surveillance group. And they're mostly people that already had a top secret clearance. I only had a secret clearance in the military. That was no big deal. Everybody get those like out of a box of Cracker Jacks. You know, it was only 100 pages I had to fill out. That's kind of a joke, but
well, you know, maybe the way to get around that, because for this to be the case, I mean, national security and all this, right, clearances, they're not letters of immunity. That's the thing. So there's, you know, in the legal framework that we were born into, there's something that is an absolute immunity where people okay, it's the kind of like kill hookers and get away with it, you know, type of immunity. Now, this is not something that they have. So what you have to do is that you have to file, and this is the truth, these people are involved in a private criminal enterprise, that they happen to have also wormed themselves into clearances, right? And this whole national security letters just makes it even worse. But what they engaged in is private criminal enterprise. So when these people harass you, right, an American citizen, and you catch them on film, there is no national security purpose behind, you know, moving into a frame and going like this, or brandishing a weapon against the family dad, right? This is nothing to do with national security. If anything, this is national insecurity, right?
So, it's a violation of the Geneva Conventions, which we're part of. It's a psychological operation that is absolutely not allowed on the Geneva Conventions. You know, it says right there on our military ID cards. I was talking about history.
But you know, these national security letters, they cannot be used as a blanket immunity. Then that's maybe how to phrase it. So these are not letters of immunity, right, against prosecution of any kind. And the key word is private criminal enterprise, that, by the way, is also foreign controlled. This entire enterprise is not even controlled from the US, which is why it's global. Okay, this is a foreign controlled operation. And it also seems to involve, I mean, as we later on get into your case deeper, maybe in future broadcasts, I think it will become clear that your case is also one of potential human trafficking, right, through 100%. The chips and all that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry, but yes, I'd say that. I tell when I go, because I sell this. You have to sell this to people. Not that it's a product, but you have to sell it. Kind of like I sold insurance. You have to explain it properly, like you do. You have to be well versed. You have to have talking points sometimes that you learn to repeat. And I do that, and I go out and I hand out cards and stuff like that, you know, and let people know. And I can't even remember why I started telling you that. I'm having such a hard time. I'm having you. Okay, you spoke with me for 4 hours yesterday, right?
And you were perfectly coherent. And what this tells me is that you're under the influence of DARPA tech, really.
I am having such a tough time. Yeah.
You also mentioned this tinnitus. You said, do you have tinnitus throughout, or did you just suddenly hit with ringing?
It happened a couple months ago. It started happening a couple months ago, persistently. It had happened to me periodically, just sporadically, where I'd get the tinnitus, and I thought maybe I'm getting calcium built up in my ears or something like that. You know, but right about the time as I progress in this, as I get more subscribers, as I make better videos, as I talk to people like you, I get more and more of this. And actually the tinnitus would start. I'd get this pressure in my ears, which as I was setting up all of my equipment today, I haven't had this for maybe about a week or so. As I was setting up my equipment, I started getting pressure in my ears as if I was in a C-130 at how many ever feet with no pressurization. Now, when this would happen, I would get dizzy. I'd go to the ground. I'd be out here trying to find hats, trying to find all the stuff from my eBay store. My dog would look at me. He'd start barking. He'd run out of the room, and he'd start throwing up. So both of us had a physical reaction to something at the exact same time, and he's looking around like, what is that? And he picks up a lot of things. He starts whining, and he's not a pain in the ass dog. He's a really good dog. He doesn't just whine for no reason. And then we'll be out in the backyard. I'll start to feel kind of funny. He starts to whine. He starts to whimper a little bit, But that's been the last few months, and I have had a really tough time with my energy, trying to function throughout the day and just make stop in the middle of the day and be exhausted, have to take a nap, and I'm drinking a lot of water, I'm eating enough food. We've been going to the grocery store, making our own meals, healthy meals with protein and carbohydrates, and I pay attention to that stuff. So it's not like, well, I eat some pizza pockets and some junk food every now, but mix it in there.
I mean, pizza, that's just being American, right? But what I'm saying, this is just a joke, But what it sounds like to me is that you and your dog are being hit by a directed energy weapon. And now the question is, does it come from above, from satellites, which I've now recently learned, what that feels like and looks like? Or does it come from your neighbors? Do you have any nearby neighbors?
Yeah, they're right next door to me, and they're verified perps. Actually, that side, this side, and this side have been working with each other to play out little skits on me. They all tried to act like they were friends. Well, actually, the neighbors on either side of me tried to act like they were friends, got me to their house. One of them drugged me one night. One of them was I was over at their house the night the officer that actually read my Miranda rights to me. Her name was Officer Miranda. She showed up at their party 1 minute after 10 for a noise complaint and came over and made visual contact with me. But yeah, these people, for sure, they all drive red and white cars. All their cars are red and white. And they will leave their house at the exact same time I leave. They'll give me dirty looks. In the Hispanic culture, they call it the ojo, the evil eye. I grew up around a lot of that. I don't have any problem with anyone's ethnicity, and that's why I wanted to be friends with these guys. It was like, great, I want to. I'm practicando mi español. I'm learning my Spanish, So I went to these people's houses, and again, it's nothing to do with their ethnicity, but these people betrayed me, tried to reel me and his friends, and then they played out these really dramatic street theater skits. Like right after my wife left, I went through this terrible thing. I thought she got kidnapped. I thought I called reporter as a missing person and went through this whole traumatic thing. These guys invite me over. Hey, come over and play some pool. Let's have a beer. I get there, and the neighbor on the other side of them, who are also gang stalkers all the time, he comes in and he's sobbing. Oh God, my girlfriend just left me. She took custody of the kid. She kidnapped the kid. This has all happened to me in my life before, and been a traumatic thing. He's crying, sobbing, and he's going through this whole thing. And they're like, "Are you okay?" Okay, but they keep looking up to see my reaction to this guy's. You know, you'd think they'd be focused on him, and I'm giving the guy a pep talk. Hey, man, listen, life is tough. These things happen. It seems like the end of the world right now, but it'll get better. And I'm trying to make him feel better. And then he like snaps out of it, like he just scene done, scene over. Yeah. And all of a sudden they start saying weird stuff and doing this thing. And I'm like, huh, that seemed very, very similar to these events in my life. And all of a sudden this guy is okay now and he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. So those kind of street theater skits, I completely quit talking to all these people, you know.
Wow, let me show you something, because everything that you're describing, sorry, yes, you know, I am pushing this affidavit template, but I'm going somewhere with this, you know, on the affidavit template, and I'm pointing to this because the affidavit template is the summary of about 1.5 years of detailed investigation and listening to so many victim stories and pulling out the forensic markers. Okay, so in the section 4, neighbors and neighborhood, right, where I mentioned these timed meetings with neighbors, I have this entire section about neighbors suddenly getting odd or new cars, and you're reporting that your neighbors have all white and red cars. Is that right?
Right after each one of these incidents, right after some weird scenario they pull on me, they get a new car. The neighbors over here, after we went over there and hung out, we had a couple beers with them. You know, you go to a birthday party, they have the piñata, they have all the homemade food, you have some tecates and to have fun. You know, and we come home. My son was with me. He had a couple beers. He's old enough to drink those. You have to be 21 here in the United States to drink. He had a couple beers, but not enough to get up in the middle of the night and go walk into another room. He woke up the next morning laying in his closet. Never happened. He doesn't sleepwalk. He doesn't have this issue, whatever. And it was the weirdest thing. And he was going, Dad, I don't remember getting up and trying to go to the bathroom. I'm nothing. I woke up laying on the floor in my closet. And I was thinking, these people did that somehow. And you have to have gone through this, for the people that are watching this thinking, who the hell would go into somebody's house, move a person into a closet while they're passed out? These kind of people do these kind of things. Yeah. So it set off a red flag in my head. And I thought, oh my God, these people are, you know, I had already had suspicions, but you know, it dialed it in for me. I said, okay, these people for sure. They got a new red Mercedes, like right after that. I don't know what they do for a living. I have no clue. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what they do for a living, but they got a brand new red Mercedes.
Well, this is super important because, you know, they get paid in things like that, like expensive holidays, new cars. This is how the crime cartel pays them. And then now the colors have a special meaning as well, because the red and white I have seen mentioned over and over. So let me just show you something, okay? Sorry, I'm just rubbing my eye because I'm being hit in the eye. I'm not doing the all seeing.
Okay. I'm vigilant of that too. I do because, well, that's what they do. They do things that we do in normal everyday life. Your eye itches, or you brush your hair, and that's a normal thing. But then they sensitize everyone and stuff. So.
Exactly. So here I wasn't cartel signaling, but it's true that this is exactly what the cartel does. Now, all this congregation of people at neighbors' houses and so on, coordinated action and swarming from neighbors, unusual traffic, all this. Okay, so you should go through the list and see how much applies. But this means that your neighbors have been recruited for this intel operation. It's kind of like a military intel operation happening in your neighborhood. And
yeah,
it's to be with the goal to actually kill you and your pets. Okay, so these directed energy weapon assaults that your dog threw up from, they are not to make you healthier. They're trying to kill you. So one of the things you also need to know about red and white, the reason why red and white appears over and over, this is the flag of Switzerland, okay, red and white. Switzerland is the headquarters, the traditional headquarters of the Vatican crime cartel. It is the Vatican vaults. It's
Swiss Army?
Sorry?
Does Swiss Army have something to do with them?
Well, yeah, well, the Swiss Army is the official part, but actually the what Switzerland is, it's the home of the Knights Templar. Right, these are Vatican mercenaries, right? But this is the absolute cartel home. So you have Italy and Rome, but the Vatican doesn't belong to Italy. Now, the entirety of Switzerland was founded after the Knights Templar were kicked out of Rome. So the Vatican had this big group of murderous mercenaries, you know, making their way back to Europe, and they had to find a solution. And these roaming mercenaries have been a problem throughout centuries, you know, especially in the medieval ages. So you had to somehow keep these bastards busy because they were killing psychopaths. So they gave them this country, and this is actually, Switzerland has been given to the Knights Templar. Now, they are a military order, and they became, or probably were traditionally anyway, this entire region, the Vatican Vaults, because it's the Alps, the highest mountain range in Europe, very inaccessible in many places, and it's completely filled with caves and, you know, now military bunkers and tunnels. Now, this entire operation, this is news to the people in the US because they think they're on top of the world. They are not.
Yeah.
You know, the Vatican crime cartel has controlled operations from Switzerland for a very long time, which is why in the Second World War, the entirety of Europe was burning, and the only place that wasn't touched by any of these, you know, fascist dictators was tiny Switzerland in the middle. And that's because this is where the banking crime cartel is headquartered, the financiers of the Second World War. Right.
You connected a couple of dots, and I have to tell you this real quick. You know how I told you that I was looking into Freemasonry, and I'm seeing all this different stuff, and I went to the local lodge. Well, the worshipful master, they call him, the guy that runs a Masonic lodge, he actually was a 33rd degree Knights Templar. His name is Matt O'Halloran, which that name just happened to be the name also of a politician here in Arizona. And that's the guy that they were telling me at the lodge. He's the lead homicide detective, you know, and all this stuff. And the one that just happened.
Fucking hell, homicide detective, homicides, and you've got
yeah, and I was like, wait, is this another double entendre? And hopefully they don't kill me for saying that, but hey, this happened, and I'm repeating what, you know, I never joined the Masons. I never joined some kind of oath to not say anything about it. I went to check it out, and they said, you should probably look into another lodge. And I went, oh, I should probably never come here again, you know, because of what I went through there. But yeah, I'm sorry. Oh man, should I have said that out loud? Oh well.
No, this is totally to the point. So you have told me yesterday that you were investigating the Masons, and you know, so for my viewers who don't know your story, so Michael actually went to a Masonic lodge. He researched all the secret hand signs and so on, and he's actually the lead expert, not really me, because you know, you really looked into the precise signaling, and then eventually you ended up going to this Masonic lodge, and you just had all this gaslighting and meeting these weird people. What really flags a red flag in my head is that you have the lead homicide detective. He's a Mason and he's a Knights Templar. Well, I'm sorry, what the Masons and the Knights Templars are doing is human sacrifice, and you've got the lead, you know, detective for homicide. But what this does is he's covering up the human killing that his lodge is doing, because he would be the detective being called in, right? I mean, that's what it means.
It seems that way. And I mentioned to you also one of the questions that struck me really funny when I was there is, and they're real slow and methodical. They massage the questions in. They don't just say, hey, do you, you know, so after a while they said, do you believe in the death penalty? And, you know, I've been researching this setup that I've been going through for so long, and I'm thinking, God, did somebody say I'm a murderer? Or, you know, how many other people out there be saying, you know, I said, no, I don't really believe in the death penalty. Do you guys realize how many people are set up? And I'm talking to the master setup artists of the world, you know, right in front of me, and they're like, no, okay, well, and then they kind of went away from that topic, and I got a little uneasy. I mean, if somebody asks you that, you know, it's like, it's almost like they're asking you down to kill some people? You know,
exactly.
You know, I want to help some people. I went to the Air Force to be a firefighter. You know, I used to use this logo. It was half of an AR, like an M16 basically, and it had a camera lens on the other side. So, you know, that was my weapon, the camera lens, to put out the information. So that's how I looked at a lot of this stuff. I never went into so I could kill somebody. If I got sent to a certain place and they were like, these people are trying to take your freedom, you need to go over there and protect everyone, that's the kind of person I would be. I probably would be the kind of person that would not live a good life after I had to do something like that. I would never be able to let myself recover from something like that. You know, it would always eat at me. But no, I told those guys I don't go along with the death penalty. And then the next time I went in there, they meet on Tuesday nights, and I didn't get to go into any of they call it their ritual. But I did get to see the closet inside where they keep all of their costumes, and they dress up as Hiram Abiff, and all of these different people, and they hit each other on the head, mimicking their death if they divulge the secrets of the Masons. So, geez, if you're doing something good, do you have to threaten your members with death if they say anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, if you're running a mafia, that's exactly what you would do.
When you put up a billboard and go, hey, we're doing this. That's how public affairs work. You put out all the information about how you're doing good. You don't threaten your team members with death. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going with that. It doesn't seem above board.
But you know what I'm taking away from this, if I'm ever asked this question, you know, by these creepy Masons or, you know, in a Masonic lodge, like, do you believe in the death penalty? I think the right answer is yes, I do.
For you.
High treason, like the Masons and the Jesuits. Absolutely. I think every single Mason and Jesuit should get the death penalty.
Well, I don't know enough about it yet, but the people in charge way up high that have enslaved people and taken away their lives, that we can't have those kind of people on the planet anymore. Yeah, you and I could get a little controversial talking about that, because I kind of think we share the same idea. You know, I don't want to see a mass genocide or anything like that, but geez, these people, what do you do with them? What do you do with them when they're predators and they never go away? They never stop. All of the all the psychologists and psychiatrists, even though I don't believe in everything they say that a psychopathic narcissist can never be healed. They can never, they say through extensive whatever, but
it's through extensive jailing for life, I think.
Yeah, there you go. That would be fine with me. And then we could drive around on the streets happily without these people thinking of us as animals, trying to get us to react, trying to use this manipulative game that they used for power.
Absolutely. Well, it has to be kept in mind that we now have a global crime syndicate, the biggest accumulation of networked psychopaths and serial killers, right, that we had in the history of the planet. And they are preparing a mass genocide in every single country of the world. So I think at that point, I think we're ready to give them the death penalty. Besides, in the US, for high treason, it is actually part of the, the penalties, the penalty for high treason and the mass murder and genociding of Americans is the death penalty.
Yes.
It's in the law,
And we've covered that a lot. Yeah, and it's written right there too. Have you heard of the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah, I have. Exactly.
Yeah, you're in Georgia, the state of Georgia. It talks about how they want to knock down the population of the world. Right there, it's like they carve it and literally carved it in stone. They can't say it any more clear. That's what they want to do. They want to get rid of us. It's carved in stone. We're here trying to tell people, hey, this is the operation that they're using to carry out what's carved on those fucking stones. Please listen. Sorry, I'm doing my best to try to be as professional as possible. Man.
This is great. No, I think this is absolutely to the point, because that is exactly what they're doing, and then this is extremely important to get out to these people and get it into their fucking heads, if I say so myself, as quickly as possible, because this is really a genocide program, active genocide with live, active shooters on all the streets of Europe and the US, trying to murder as many Europeans and Americans. And it's also happening in other places, by the way, like Japan, Australia, South Africa, I think pretty much everywhere in the world. But it is, as far as I can make out from my vantage point, it is really ramping up in Europe and America. And they really want to kill. I think what they want is they want to murder all the people who are not part of the Masons and the Jesuits. And they need to kill actually a very large part of the Masons and the Jesuits themselves to get to the numbers that they're advertising there. On the Georgia Guidestones. So that's what
they want to get us all to do it ourselves. They want to divide everybody and have them. It's their standard operating procedure. That's how they made it through the Civil War. These guys told me about a book that they have, how the Masons made it through the Civil War. Well, here's how they did it. They weren't on either side. They were the middle of the bird, and they made the left and the right. There's a video of this. If you go on YouTube, and I always tell people about this. There's a video of this crow. The crow is like one of the smartest birds, the raven. And it's on this tin roof. There's a cat over on that roof, and there's a cat over on this roof, and the crow goes back and forth and pecks the cat at the tail, each cat, and gets those cats closer and closer to each other, and then he finally gets those cats to fight. And they're sitting there going at it. They fall off the roof, and the crow's following along, watching them fight. And that's exactly what these people do. They're the crow on the tin roof making the cats fight, and just sitting back watching it happen, and letting everybody go, they'll take care of themselves, And it's the same in so many different countries. It's their standard operating procedure. And that's a lot of that is what they call the hidden wisdom. They say, oh, the hidden wisdom. And it makes it sound like they know some magic trick. But usually I think what that means is the hidden wisdom is they control the courts, they control the police, they control all important corporations, they control the Federal Reserve, they control the central banks, they control all of that, they control the crime syndicate, you know, all of the illegal everything, you know, run through the CIA and all the different, I don't know all of you guys stuff, MI
5 and 6.
Anyway, you get what I'm saying. And that's the hidden wisdom, is that they run everything. And it's like George Carlin said, it's a big old fucking club and you're not in it.
Absolutely.
And he's so right. He's so right. You know, George Carlin, and that's why they killed him. He died of cancer. His wife died, and then he died very, very within the year, I think. He died shortly after, which that happens with older couples. They die of loneliness, but that, you know, he was putting that information out before almost anyone. You know, he's been doing records since the 70s, 60s, 70s, and he's been talking about this. Government doesn't care about you. You know, there's people in the government that do care about you. I know that there's personally, there's people that work for the government that they care about other people. Not every government employee is a terrible person. They're not in a conspiracy. They might be working in a job that's benefiting a conspiracy that is classified, that they don't have, they're not privy to that information, but they're just like, well, I got my paycheck. I went home, I watched Dancing with the Stars, got up the next morning, I went to the next day, and I made it through that. I have my house. We have the jet skis. We get to go to the lake each week. If I stay cognitively dissident, none of this will go away. I feel sorry for these people, but I'm not going to step my foot in that. It looks like they're having a terrible life. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to get targeted. I don't want to be part of that. I better just shut up. And, you know, and it's going to, eventually, if you stay blind like that, it's going to happen to you, you know.
Well, you know, it happened to the people in California, those houses that were razed to the ground by space-based weapons, right, with laser weapons, without actually burning the trees around it. Well, those people seem to have a pretty, you know, swish life. They were very rich. They were very well-to-do, had nice houses, you know, had the jet skis. And now the house, the jet ski, and a lot of those people have been burned to a crisp in a very staggeringly short amount of time, right, by the U.S. Space Command at AFB Shriver. So at what point do people wake up?
Yeah, and actually, here's another point to that, just to validate what you're saying. Have you seen the map of the burn areas? And do you know about the light rail? That there's been a big controversy in California. They want to put the light rail in so people can get from LA to San Francisco, and you know, a very short period of time, it would have gone right through Fresno, right where I'm from, my hometown, Clovis, Fresno, the Central Valley. That burn line looks. If you put the burn line on top of where the light rail is supposed to go, it looks like a decal that it fits right on top of it. It lines right up. Too. So hey, maybe we need to get rid of a bunch of houses to start this light rail. We have we have a state emergency that we need federal funding for. We're going to get a bunch of FEMA money sent to us because we're broke. We're the sixth richest. The California is like the sixth richest nation in the world. You know, they're rich. They have the bigger economy. Sorry, easy for me to say. They have a larger economy than most nations. Yeah. You know, but they're getting behind because they're giving all their money out through programs and all these different things and not getting enough in return. So say they burn this thing down in the perfect line of this light rail, they get federal funding from FEMA, they just got millions and millions of dollars. They can even use that maybe somehow in a roundabout loophole way to fund that light rail, and everything's good. But I mean, when we're seeing videos, and I know things can be adjusted through Avid and these different computer programs, CGI and stuff like that, but there are too many videos from people's cell phones showing blue rays of light going down. Firefighters videos that I personally listened to, fellow firefighters that I can hear that guy talk and know he's been a firefighter for a long time. The guy's breathed in some smoke. He's probably jumped into the middle of a fire and fought his way out like a smoke jumper. I mean, he's explaining, hey, we're out during these fires and I've seen this shit that I've never seen before in my life. I've never seen a melted car like that. I've never seen these houses burnt in this way with no convection heat, burning these trees. You know, it's not normal. And when people of that, the captain for the United States Forest Service is telling people that this is not normal, and he's been doing this for 35 years, some bullshit's up, you know? And I don't care what anybody says, that was not an organic event, not natural. So yeah, so I'm just backing up what you were saying, because I know some people go, oh, lasers from the sky, huh, that are melting, you know, because there's these people that's all they're good at, you know, this is just responding to these situations like that. So I'm doing a little troll damage control, I guess, right now, just to prevent
Well,
some.
I've given up on troll damage control because I just taught my my audience how to screenshot the trolls and prepare the trolls to be charged in court.
Oh yeah, me last night.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing is, what these people are doing, they're covering up crimes against humanity, because what has happened in California is mass extermination of Americans, right? And I show this image where you have Dresden, which was bombed to the ground in the Second World War. Well, in the bombing and burning of Dresden, you still have partially the wall standing. And now, you know, some 60 years on or 70 years on, what you have is you have, you know, the Masons, the Vatican crime cartel worked out how to really raise houses to the ground, where the only thing you see is actually the, you know, 2D outline of the house where it previously stand, and not even the lawn is burned around the house. Now, that is clearly advanced technology. This is not normal house burning. By the way, do you have a graphic which shows the light rail line and the where the burning was taking place?
Not handy, but if you put in California blue, I mean, yeah, let's see. I'll
yeah, if you can pull up that, it would be great to show. And in the meantime, one of the things I want to show your viewers, I'm not sure my viewers hopefully have seen this ad nauseum, but this is a super important evidence that's quotable in court. I want to point people to Cornell University, in an article that scientific article that is posted here on the Cornell University website. The address to get here is archive with an X, arxiv.org. So archive with an X.org. And the paper that you can search here in the search bar is Network of Global Corporate Control. And what you get to is this paper published in 2011. And it's you can click on the PDF and see the scientific paper. This has been published by ETH Zurich. This is a university in Switzerland, in Zurich. And the reason why this is bombshell, this is one of the most important scientific papers of the 21st century. What these systems analysts did is that they mapped the economy, and they have analyzed 43,000 international corporations and discovered that they are all controlled by a massive cartel that owns 40% of these companies at least, and has 60% of the revenue. At the very top of this global cartel is a very tightly knit group. Let me make this bigger. And this is scientific proof, guys. This is stuff that you can quote in court. Now, this is the big global cartel that people have rumored to exist, but here is now the names. This is now the ultimate scientific proof that this global cartel does exist, and it contains, for example, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, UBS in Switzerland, Barclays in the UK, Morgan Stanley, and then some insurance companies as well, but also Deutsche Bank in Germany, Credit Suisse, AXA, an insurance conglomerate. You know, these are the people. This is the cartel. And as I said, they control 60% of the commercial money flows in the world. More than half. They have, you know, the majority. And this is an absolute fact. This is absolutely undeniable. You know, for all those people who are looking for evidence for the existence of these cartels, we have it now. Since 2011, people can actually quote it. And what is also important to know is that when these gang stalking operations are being financed around the world, this banking conglomerate, all the banks that were listed, would have the detailed transactions. So, for example, if you, Michael, want to, start to launch an offensive court case, you should be able to subpoena and retrieve all the financial payments, okay, all the payments for all the gang stalkers you have ever photographed. So the NSA will have their telecommunication data, right? The FBI, the fusion centers, and Lockheed Martin most likely will have hired them as, people on the ground. And then the banks would have the transactions data. So it is
people too. I want to add to that too. I made a video about this. They'll have metadata in all of these photos that they've sent. So if this ever gets unclassified or declassified and unredacted, and it shows, they can look at these people. They can look at their metadata, which I'm sure you know what that is. But it's embedded information into a photo or a digital video that can be added. Whenever I added something to Divots, the place where we put all of our videos and video, all that stuff, we put embedded information. and it would show if it had a GPS, it'd show the geographical location of where it's at. It would show the time the photo was taken. It would show who the photo was taken of. And if that ever gets out, if those photos, if they can't be deleted and forever with the internet and everything the way it is now, they're in some kind of archive somewhere. We could show that and show that metadata. It would show. They could even use an algorithm to do this. They use algorithms and artificial intelligence to run all of this. They could use one. And actually, I thought about that talking to David Hawkins. I don't know if you know who he is. He does all the artificial intelligence stuff. Say, hey man, can you design a program that with artificial intelligence that can reach back out to all these people? If we can identify somebody, reach to their phone, and that sounds illegal actually, but some way that it would be able to prove that all of these people are connected in this network.
I think the software that you're referring to has already been written by William Binney, the former technical director of the NSA, and I think you can now probably get this through his company Pretty Good Knowledge, because he's trying to do exactly that, do these criminal investigations. So last thing I heard is that he's working for legal firms on exactly that. But he wrote what has now become the mass surveillance architecture. He wrote it. Okay, he devised it. He was the mathematician behind it, the entire network mapping. So yeah, the NSA have it.
Yeah, and then the General Hayden, he was the head of the NSA. Actually, he was an Air Force general. Wasn't a fan of his. I researched that guy a little bit. And Bill Binney came up with Thin Thread, I think is the name of the original program that he came up with. It would have ran so much cheaper. It would have worked without violating people's rights, without having this program involved. And I think General Hayden was not only aware of this program, but knew the money that it would generate. He said, sorry, Bill, we're not going with that. This other program, this targeting Nazi program, is going to make a lot more money, and went with that. And he's gone now. Actually, I don't know. I can't remember if he was fired or resigned or what, but he's not the head of the NSA anymore.
Well, I think then came was it directly followed by Admiral Rogers, who then also, to my great disappointment, didn't actually stop, for example, the targeting of Karen Melton Stewart, right? Who was directly being targeted by NSA, and she has evidence for that, right? Yeah, and as far as I can make out, Michael Hayden is one of the criminals involved in this, and it's already a red flag that he was both the head of the CIA and the NSA.
Wow.
So he's one of the deeply involved criminals in all this. Yeah, and I think he's directly responsible and involved in this Nazi mass extermination of the Americans. Which is already preceded by the gang stalking terror program. And many people have already died through this. They either killed themselves, they were either murdered with the directed energy weapons that were deployed in cars and in rucksacks and everywhere from neighbors. Absolutely. Now, General Michael Hayden, and I'm not going to, give too much away, is one of these people who will be charged with crimes against humanity.
I believe so, too.
And it would be my great hope that he does receive a death sentence, evil motherfucker, if I may say so, for my viewers on my channel who are used to me talking like that, and I apologize to your viewers, but it's absolutely out of order. And we have the evidence that he was involved. He is a criminal. And now the question is how to stop it. So basically, I really would like to wrap this up. I mean, this was great because I think we spoke for almost 3 hours, and we only barely scratched the surface of your case, but I think we opened a lot of talking points for the future reference. And I think your court case is a real pivot point where hopefully you can turn it around and turn it against them. But there's so much more to your case, including implanting and what the US Air Force might have done. We also know from other sources that the US Air Force is involved in the targeting program, big time, So I am just really looking forward to actually hearing much more about your case and discuss, all the implications for other victims.
Well, I'm sure I'll be contacting you as I'm trying to fill it all out. I'll get stuck somewhere and contact you. Well, hey, okay, I need some help now. I made it this far, so I'll try not to bug you too much. That's not a good phrase. Try not to bug you too much. So you have to be so vigilant of what you say.
I would be actually looking forward to being bugged because I'm preparing my court case myself against British intelligence and German and Swiss intelligence who have been targeting me. So, our cases have a lot of parallels.
Yeah, there are.
They try to involve me in court cases and in, setups and stuff like that, in staged car accidents, one not that long ago. So I totally sympathize, and one of the great hopes I have is that all the court cases that are being launched now will lead to even more court cases being launched by other victims. And I hope that we can teach people how to run a court case, maybe even without a lawyer, you know, just how to do it pro se.
Yeah, they're actually, so here in the United States, one of the guys that was giving me information that helped me learn what exculpatory evidence and what motion discovery and all these different, what motion to compel, you know, is, his name is Brian Vukadinovich. He has, he was on the Jason Goodman show on Crowdsource the Truth for a while, and they were covering my case also. But he actually was targeted by the police. He was arrested 10 different times by these people and fought pro se through each one of those and prevailed in each one. And there's a judge on the East Coast, a former judge named Judge Poisner, I think it's P-O-S-N-E-R, N-E-R, I'm not sure. But he has a pro se advocate website. And I know this is just here in the US, but there's a lot of similarities, like you're saying. But he has a pro se advocate website that you can go to and download documents and stuff like that, that I thought was kind of helpful. And I wasn't really looking at going that way. I was going to hire an attorney, and that's what I told the judge, and I still don't know if I can defend myself pro se, but if I have a big enough network and get to the right point, I might be able to. But it almost seems like the only hope to go pro se in this thing. It's like, you know, you've got yourself, like you said, you get yourself fighting for yourself instead of yourself fighting for yourself and this other person that you didn't want to be part of your case fighting against you while you're trying to, you know, so if you just get rid of that person. But it's dangerous. Judges don't like that here, and it's a big leap. But it's almost where we have to go now, I think.
I absolutely think so.
It's networking, you know, like open source networking with computers. Everybody putting in, you know, your knowledge, my knowledge. Catherine Horton or Catherine.
Just call me Catherine.
Well, no, I was trying to say I'm having one of these mental blocks. Oh my gosh.
DARPA's working overtime today. I have to say,
really. Karen Milton Stewart. Karen Milton Stewart. I say her name every damn day. I couldn't think of her name. You know what I'm saying. So of course, and I lost my train of thought again there. So, but yeah, we are coming up on 3 hours, and we barely scratched the surface. If we just kept talking, we could go for a month and not stop. Yeah, exactly. Then talk about the other 1,000 hours that, you know, we need to go into it, and then more. So. This was a great start. It was a long show, so everybody, thanks for sticking with us for so long. If you're still here, and hi to everybody over there. Welcome to Arizona.
Welcome to the Michael Barden Report. People should follow you. Actually, this is what I want my subscribers to do. Please follow Michael. You know.
Well, let's do that before we leave. Give all your social media information. I'll give mine, and then we can go ahead and check out and tell everybody bye, and we'll figure out what we're going to talk about on our next show.
Absolutely. Actually, you know, talking about the next show, one of the things I would absolutely love to talk about with you is the implanting and all the implant talk that we had yesterday. I mean, I'm not sure how happy you are talking about it in public. I've just talked about implanting up and down all my life. You know, ever since I went public.
I want to know. That's where I have the least amount of knowledge, and I don't know about it. So yeah, I want to investigate that. I want to scan myself. You know, I told you I got the brain scan, and they wouldn't give it to me. So yeah, I with some help, and I just gave up. I was so busy, I was so tired, I was so stressed out, I just kind of gave up on that, and that's what they want you to do. So with a little bit of help from your friends, a little bit of help from people that are pushing forward, you can, you know, maybe even just get the motivation to go through with that, and, you know, fight them with it and ask them the 20 times you need to get that document, and then finally they can't say no anymore. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, as far as implants are concerned, I have, you know, a lot of information that maybe and methods how you can get to a place where you can really start suing them. Now, what I wanted to show for your viewers who maybe don't know me, you can find me on YouTube under Stop 007. That's my channel. This is what it looks like. And for the people who already are interested in the implant stories, they can go down and to scroll down to here under Appeals and Evidence. In this section, Nazi implant detection, you will find a playlist with 8 videos where I actually prove how I'm scanning myself and I'm showing where my implants are using a bug detector. So, you know, this is on my channel, but they also find other interviews, for example, here with Dr. Joseph Farrell and others. And I'm going to add some more interviews. I'm also on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is at stop007org. Right now, I have been blocked by Twitter. So I'm just, I think I can go back tomorrow probably. So tomorrow onward, I'm back on Twitter, but they can follow me. So now you, Michael, please.
First, why'd they block you? What was the reason to block you? What was the terrible thing to be blocked.
You know, the reason, actually, I think legally, I would love to argue that in court. I appealed for the death sentence using military law for the heads of MI6, I think. And,
So
you know,
all you're doing is
I didn't say go out and shoot them in the head, although many times I really want that personally, privately in my mind, because they have shot me in the head, you know, MI6, that is, and MI5 repeatedly for 3 years. So I had, I think, you know, daily headshots from them. So I think, you know, I should.
That law was already in place. You didn't make that law. You didn't come up with that law that there's a death penalty. All you're doing is saying, yeah, you know what? I'm to the point where I'm okay with that law. That was not made by me. I didn't create it. I'm just going to go ahead and agree with it. And so Twitter wants to.
Yeah, they didn't like it, but doesn't matter because, you know, by not tweeting, I got more work done. So now I'm going back with a vengeance, and I will start talking about death penalties and military law even more for military intelligence. This is what people need to know. Military intelligence comes under military law, which includes the death penalty, much more, you know, gung-ho and quicker than other death penalties around the world.
Yeah. In Texas, they've got a quick checkout line for the death penalty. I mean, you know, it's not something, like I said, we came up with, not our theory. These people are already doing it, and we're just to the point where, you know, these people have stolen multiple years of our life. They've taken away the opportunities that we've had to succeed, and they're literally stealing a part of somebody's life. You might as well cut their arm off, cut their leg off, do something to incapacitate them. But they do it this way because there's no blood. Well, they thought there was no evidence, but they're smart enough people to come up with the evidence. So, all right, if anybody wants to find me on YouTube, this channel right here, you're watching already, is Michael Barden, Barden. My new channel, I started the Barden Report, which actually this is episode 7 of the Barden Report, but I went ahead and put it on my normal YouTube channel because there's like 3,000 people subscribers, and I knew more people would be able to see it and tune in. So I'll upload this video to the Barden Report, Barredin Report, REPORT, YouTube. Please subscribe to that channel. We're up to around like 100 subscribers on that one. I've got, well, yeah, this will be the 7th video. My website is barredin.us. I'm on Twitter at Michael Barden. Number 8, like the infinity sign everybody's got tattooed on them here in the United States. I didn't remember selecting that number, actually. It was weird. And that's a whole nother talk show, that number. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some of the tribe of the whatever. What else am I on? Facebook, Michael Barden. Who knows how much longer I'll be on there. It seems like everybody's kind of just going away from Facebook, and there's not a lot of, I don't know, just my personal opinion. What else am I on? Patreon. I started a Patreon channel. I've got some people following me on Patreon. Thank you very much. If you want to subscribe to that channel, that will help also. And that's it. There's all kinds of different things, but that's where you can find Dr. Horton and myself, Catherine. I'm gonna just call you Catherine from now on.
Absolutely. I think. Please do. You know. And I'm just really looking forward to it because I would really like to follow your court case in detail. I also would like to know the names of the judges and everybody who was did any irregularities, because I think it's of international importance. And in turn, you know, I can tell you what's happening with the European court cases and the corruption that we are witnessing here. And I'm just really looking forward to 2019, because I think this is the year where a lot of court cases are interfacing, and we're combining evidence, and we're really starting to, you know, wear these people down and remove them from office. So I guess I would like to, from my side, my final words would be that I wish that we take Q as the right Socratic method to get us to think, but do not trust the plan, but come up with a plan yourself.
Yes.
To actually shut these criminals down. That would be my hope, you know.
Yep, exactly.
And bring your own indictments, bring your own court charges. Only then can you be sure that you are actually indicting the criminals.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, I think that's kind of my theory on Q, is they ask everything in question form, 1, to keep from being held liable for disseminating classified information, but 2, to get people to think on their own. Because if you tell somebody something, they're not just going to take it. But if you ask them the question, immediately they have no choice but for the wheels to start turning. Kind of like that shirt I was wearing yesterday with all the little wheels in the brain, the flow bots. Did you see? I hope you saw that video. That's a really interesting one. They're talking about what we're talking about in the song. But yeah, it just gets their wheels turning, and then they have to think about it on their own. And then they might have that aha moment just by answering that question themselves and go, huh, wait a minute. okay, so I just answered that question for myself. How many more questions have I not answered for myself? And then next thing you know, they might be on an interview with us in a couple of years talking about this stuff, going, this is ridiculous. How did I not see this for so long? So, all right. Well, hey, that was a great interview. I had a good time.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
And I'm looking. Sorry.
I was just saying thank you to everybody over there on your side of the pond.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to you know, hopefully many future interviews and you know, a great investigation with a great investigative journalist. So this is going to be great.
Appreciate it. All right, yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. Okay, well, I will talk.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.